call the March 25th, 2021 Board of Supervisors meeting to order. Let us stand for the allegiance if you don't mind. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. We're going to the budget input session of the meeting here, and you have 5 minutes to speak. And when 4 minutes is up, I will wave this sign that you'll have 1 minute left, and then that's it, all right? And then we'll start the question, after you finished, after that 1 minute, we'll start the question and answer session.
You got, is Ms. Reagan on? Cheyenne. Okay.
She's on?
Yeah.
All right. Ms. Reagan, VDH, page 37 of your packet, of your budget.
Ms. Reagan, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you. Did you hear my instructions about the time limit? Okay.
I did. Thank you.
And can you see this?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. All right, so you may start when you're ready.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me here. I do apologize for Dr. Williams. He's out at visiting another clinic setting for the vaccination response for the district. So I do apologize for that. So if you have any questions for him, I can certainly relay those back to him. But tonight I will speak on behalf of the budget. Can you hear me? Okay, on behalf of the budget. So we are requesting level funding again from Lancaster County. We expect that should be sufficient enough with our estimated revenue, even with our decrease of services on the clinical side. We feel with the state share still being the same to be able to match Lancaster County, we can still support all of our current services that we still offer into the next fiscal year. We do have a lot of COVID money coming in for additional resources to assist with the COVID response and vaccination. So we're trying not to get our permanent VDH employees into those specific COVID roles. We're trying to pull them out back to their regularly scheduled duties. And then, hire those contractors through COVID funding so we don't disrupt services for the clients and the Lancaster County citizens. So the budget still consists, nothing's really changed. We still have the rent that we pay back to Lancaster County along with custodial services. Our other big cost is obviously our information technology. That includes our computer, printers, network connections, everything else that it takes to run that building along with office support staff. We do have 2 office managers in that facility. 3 environmental specialists work out of that building along with a nurse practitioner, a nurse, Ms. Fran Gaskin is your registered nurse for Lancaster County. And then of course your administrative services, that includes your director, myself, the business manager, human resources, things of that nature. A lot of your other key positions like the emergency planner, your epidemiologist, those are all grant funded through a separate source. They're not actually paid for by Lancaster County. So again, our services are still being provided. Our family Title 10, our immunization clinics are still being provided by your nurse practitioner and your nurse. It's just on a more downscale service. So we maybe don't see as many patients as we were because of social distancing rules. However, environmental health has never stopped since COVID. That still continues to move forward and push forward and still drive the revenue, not just in Lancaster County, but all the districts. So that doesn't seem to have phased out at all during COVID. We're still proceeding forward with that at this moment. We are currently in the vaccination COVID mode, so that's really our primary focus, but we still provide services on a daily basis to citizens of Lancaster. That's what we will be focusing on in the coming years after COVID is what we will look like as a health department after COVID, what that means providing services, how we are structured, how we'll look at. I think that'll be coming in the next year or two as we get on the backside of COVID. I think that's something that we'll be talking forward in the coming future about, how we restructure our health department and how we respond not just to COVID, but to other like the flu and other diseases out there. I think that'll be interesting to have Lancaster part of that conversation once we get to that point, to see how different we actually will look as a health department. So some future things to come after COVID is hopefully on the back end sooner rather than later. So that's all I currently have. If you have any questions, I can certainly try to answer them. If it's COVID related, if it's budget related, I will certainly be more than happy to answer that at this time.
Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. Board members, you have any questions of her? All right, no questions. All right, thank you, ma'am. No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good day. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. Gentlemen, while this has been presented to us, are you ready to just vote that we will accept this level funding here for fiscal year 2022? All right?
Mr. Chairman, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Lawson? Sir? We're gonna vote on accepting this funding for fiscal year 2022.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous. All right, got that one. Okay, the next one, Mr. Davis, is he up?
I've got both Lisa Hall and Jerry Davis.
Bring them both, can you bring them both in?
That's page 43.
While they're coming on, Jerry's going to talk about the PDC contribution, and Lisa's going to talk about tourism. Lisa wanted me to hand out this pamphlet that the Tourism Council put together recently, so that's what this is that you have at your desk. Jerry, Lisa, can you hear us? You're muted, Jerry. Unmute yourself. Lisa, you're muted too. Can you hear us now? You're
Can't hear you,
I can
Jerry.
hear you. It looks like Jerry.
All right, Jerry, you're muted again. There you go.
How about now?
Yeah, we got
Okay,
you now.
good. All right,
Okay,
let
all
me say
right,
this
sorry about
before you
that.
get,
All
before you
right,
get started, let me
good
say
evening
this to
to
you.
all.
Jerry,
Uh,
Jerry, let me say
Yes.
this to you before we get started here. Each
Oh,
one,
okay.
you have 5 minutes to speak. I'm gonna give Lisa an extra 2 minutes, all right? All right, because we really wanna hear about your tourism. All right. So- All right. Okay, and when you get down to 1 minute, I'm gonna just wave this. Can you see it? That's letting you know you have 1 minute
Yes.
left. Can you see it?
Yes,
Lisa,
Yes.
Can you see it? All right, good, okay, your time's starting now, okay?
all right. I can give Lisa my 5 minutes too if you want, so. All right, well, good evening to you all. As you know, the PDCs, there's 21 planning districts in Virginia established by and authorized by the Virginia General Assembly in 1969 when they adopted the Regional Cooperation Act. And at that time, the 4 Northern Neck counties by charter agreement established and formed the Northern Neck Planning District Commission. And our purpose is to, under the act, is to encourage and promote regional cooperation among the member localities. And that ranges a wide range from economic development, transportation, environmental programs, emergency operation planning, service delivery. We do the emergency ambulance service revenue recovery for the counties. We administer the Assign a Highway program where probationers are used to clean up road litter. So that's some of the things we do. We do the regional planning on your behalf, those plans that are required by state or federal government, whether it be the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, the water supply planning, emergency operation planning, hazard mitigation planning, rural transportation planning, to name a few. We also administer the Enterprise Zone program on behalf of the region, We have enterprise zones in all 4 counties and 4 of the towns. We get a lot of activity in those zone areas that bring grants to, incentive grants to business and industry throughout the region. And as you know, most state and federal grant funding comes down to localities and encourage the localities work on a regional basis. So we also help in that regards. So the planning district is governed by a 16-member commission that's appointed by the 4 Board of Supervisors, 4 members from each county. We also have, from that commission, we have a 4-member executive committee, which is comprised of Board of Supervisor members. And the commission work plan and the budget is reviewed and adopted by the executive committee every year for the fiscal year. For your information and remind you, the Lancaster County members on the commission currently is Ron Davenport, Charles Lee, and the board members are Jack Larson and Jason Bellows. Jason is also serving as the chairman of the Planning District Commission, just completed a 2-year term and is beginning a new 2-year term that started in January. So we're requesting $17,000 as the county contribution to the planning district. That represents level funding. That's broken down $4,500 for the member contribution. That member contribution is the same amount as when the planning district was established in 1969. There's a $5,000 that goes towards the match for environmental, the planning district's participation in the Virginia Coastal Program, which serves 9 coastal planning districts, and $7,500 for the tourism contribution to the Tourism Commission, which Lisa can address here in a minute. The planning district revenues for FY20 were a little over $1 million. It was $1,074,305 dollars. Our annual budget usually is around the $1 million level. It varies year to year. So the $68,000 in local contribution that comes from the 4 counties represents about 6.3% of the entire budget. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Lisa, and she can talk about tourism.
All right, Ms.
Thank
Hunter.
you.
Ms. Hull.
Thank you so much for allowing us to present. In the past year, of course, we've heard a lot about tourism nationally and how the tourism industry has been hammered through the pandemic. There is a huge silver lining for rural areas and for smaller localities. For one thing, the Northern Neck was never dependent on air travel for its feeder markets. Our feeder markets are and continue to be Washington, D.C. and the suburban areas, Richmond and Norfolk and its suburban areas. We push out advertising-wise to Baltimore. I recently pushed out to Baltimore and as west as Charlottesville to try to grab those folks who aren't going on the cruises or the international trips or anything else that anyone might have planned last year. They're staying close to home. Travel sentiment is really strong. People want to get out. They want to get vaccinated. They want to get away. They just for a break. And so the Northern Neck is strategically located to really benefit in an odd way from its location near our feeder markets and within a drive distance. I'd like to entertain any questions you all might have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Hull. Members, you have any questions of either one of them?
I do.
Okay, sir.
Mr. Davis, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm curious about all of those programs that you listed. I'm curious about what Lancaster County specifically gets out of participating in each of those programs. And I wonder whether it might not be possible to have a briefing at some point, not tonight, that specifically tells us the benefit to Lancaster County for each of those programs. Is that possible?
Oh, absolutely. I'd be glad to do that at your convenience.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, no further questions. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All right, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, are you ready to vote on the $17,000 to be added to the fiscal year 22 budget? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay? All right, okay, the ayes have it, one nay. All right, so next one is in person. Mr. Forrester, page 41.
I think we have everything sent to you already. We also have some pictures I'd like to share with the board tonight we brought. So, thank you all for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dwight Forrester, and I'm the current president of the, can I take
pass
this
it
off?
down if you want.
Of the Youth Club of Lancaster County.
Thank you.
And this is Tiffany Wolf. She is the current vice president of the Youth Club of Lancaster County. Thank you all for seeing us in person. It's just good to see people. And we really appreciate the opportunity to come tonight. I think you have in a packet a letter that we sent to you earlier this year. And again, we just want to tell you how we cherish our partnership that we have with Lancaster County and the continued support that we get from you all and this board. It's greatly appreciated. And this year, again, we're asking for level funding. That funding level is $10,000. And what that money is used for is for maintenance of our facilities, equipment, supplies. So a very small amount of our overall budget annually. We're also, I just wanted to bring you all up to speed on what's going on in the park. We've had lots of construction, in the last year. So as you look at the pictures that we handed out to you tonight, I just want to highlight a few things. Look at the first picture that you all have, opening day 2018. That's where we really wanted to show our support for our county's first responders and the amount of kids and stuff that come to our program annually for the park. It's been something that's just growing and growing every year, and we look forward to that. We get to 2019, and you see, it's just, I can stand up here and say a lot tonight, but if you look at some of the pictures and some of the smiles on the kids' faces, that's what it's all about for us. We really enjoy what we do, working with the kids, working with the youth, and it's a great thing. At the bottom of the page, I've talked to you earlier this month, and it says, got some, get some pride. I think that's one thing that the ballpark has for Lancaster County, and I think that's one thing the citizens of Lancaster County have, a lot of pride in our ballpark and our community and what we do down there. And then you get to the third page, opening day 2018. Who could have seen this coming? Not a kid in sight. It was pretty sad. We were there, though. We saw a need for our community. We were starting to feel the impacts locally of shortages of food. We saw the grocery store shelves, so we held a food drive with the local Healthy Harvest Food Bank, which was a huge success. And mainly, 2020, our parking lot has been used for drive-through COVID testing and other, events and fundraisers and donation drives for many other organizations throughout the Northern Neck. And then moving on to the last picture there, 2020, our capital improvement project, as you can see, we are well under construction. And this is what I really want to highlight. This is a large-scale project for our small little organization, a board of volunteers, mostly parents, working parents, and with kids, numerous kids going in different directions, all different times. We couldn't have done this without your support, without the support of our local businesses and community members. And for that, we really say thank you. Thank you so much. And what I'd really like to highlight is the benefits of that. We're not just playing ball at the ballpark. We're trying to build relationships. We're trying to build team building experiences with your young individuals. If we would have to do this project and pay out of pocket, you know, for this field, we're just under $1 million for what some of our other, if you look at the other counties and what those facilities are. The second thing I'd like to point out to you is we have hundreds of volunteer hours, and a lot of our volunteer hours was our youth coming back and giving back to the community. We were successful this year. For some of our high school seniors and softball seniors, we were able to play ball. We hosted 9 counties. We were able to follow the CDC guidelines and provide fields for surrounding 9 counties to play ball. That's not a big deal to many people, but to the kids and the communities that didn't get to live out their senior year in high school, that's huge. And so because of our partnership and because the way we're structured, that was an added benefit to our community. Just wanted to mention that. And like to talk with Lisa because as far as tourism, 9 counties of people coming into Lancaster County. We had a tremendous amount of support from our local businesses. They were telling us, hey, that was a well-needed, injection into our arm with the amount of people that came to our local restaurants and filled our local hotels for many, many weekends. So just wanted to let you know, thank you so much. And we greatly appreciate the support. Any questions?
Well, I just like to thank you thanking us, but we need to thank you for what you all do down at the Dreamfields, because it's been a major undertaking, and I think our fields will stack up in this state or out this state. Y'all have a wonderful facility down there, and we support you any way we can. And I know you got the light project coming up, and it costs money. So
The lights are expensive. That caught us a little off guard, how much lights are these days. So, but
Yeah.
we're working towards it. We've got a lot of things that we're trying to do and keeping up with the fundraising, and it's a great thing. So we appreciate it and invite you all to come down and visit with us, in person. So thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
you didn't mention, but I'm also appreciative of what you're doing for the kids. But you also let your building be used by the community. And
That's
that's
correct.
huge also, because there's very few actual places where that can happen. And you're perfect for that. So, thank you.
Okay. Is the young lady gonna speak? No, sir. Oh, okay. I was trying to cut you off, give her some time.
Probably better for her to speak than me, That's why I brought her, so.
Okay, all right.
So you didn't have to look at me.
All right, any additional questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you all so
Okay.
much.
You want to make a decision on that?
Yes.
Good.
All right. All those in favor of making a decision to, where am I? Youth Club, and what is that amount? 10,000. To add that to the fiscal year, approve that to be added to the fiscal year 2022 budget. Raise your hand. Aye. Aye. All right, that's a unanimous vote there. Okay, thank you. All right. So, Ms. Davenport, you here? Yeah, Ms. Davenport, page 38. Give her a rough time, fellas.
Good afternoon. I'm sure you're familiar with our programs.
Now,
They
okay,
have
now,
not,
Ms. Davenport, you're gonna be the only one speaking, right?
yes.
Okay, all right, you 5 minutes, okay.
Okay. You're familiar with our programs. They have not changed. Our numbers are increasing as far as our benefit programs. We are also challenged with having to maintain staff. I have recently filled 3 vacant positions. The budget that I have submitted did result in a little over 2% increase due to administration costs. So if there are any specific questions you have, I'll be happy to address them.
Oh, you didn't do, okay, gentlemen, y'all have any questions? No, okay, no, okay, well, thank you, Miss,
Okay,
all right.
thank you.
I asked them to give you a rough time and so. Thank you very much. All right, gentlemen, y'all ready to vote on this request being added to our fiscal 22-year budget? All in favor say aye. Aye. All right, that's a unanimous vote. Thank you. Mrs. Jett, Register Electoral Board, page 2021. Now, Ms. Jett, are you going to be the only one that's speaking, or? No,
both.
okay.
Both.
All right, okay.
Yes, sir.
Both, okay. Now,
Yes,
5
sir.
minutes.
Good, okay.
Okay.
Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
All right.
I'm going to be speaking on behalf of the electoral board.
If you want to pull that down and speak, you can. It's up to you. I'm
Well,
talking about your mask.
If you like, yeah.
Be glad to. Didn't want y'all to lock me up. I'll be speaking on behalf of the electoral board. I take and schedule all the election officers for all the precincts for the entire county. And as a result, I'd be glad to address any questions in that regard. Normally, based on the individual precincts, for instance, the town elections, we would use in Whitestone maybe 3, 4 in Irvington, 5 in Kilmarnock. Town, in the June primaries or the dual primaries, we use considerably more. We might use 5 or 6. In the November general election, we'll use up to, in this past election, we used about 10 people per precinct, which is the highest we ever used. Normally, I have never scheduled 10 before this past election. We had a number of election laws. Actually, we had 69 voting laws that were changed this past year, and that impacted us. One of them was, we provided information, was the General Assembly had us, mandated us to put boxes, voter boxes at each precinct. That's not even in the Virginia Code, but they mandated us to do that. They also mandated us to make sure we clean all the booths and everything. They also mandated us to take and have a dual set of, we had to have paperwork. Years gone by, we ran paper poll books. This year, we had to run paper poll books as well as electronic poll book, which we normally do. So there's a lot of extra things that we had to do, mandated, that we normally haven't done in the past. Coming up, the elections in the future, if we get over this COVID thing and we won't have to have people cleaning the booths, depending on the laws, they still have a law. They actually have, General Assembly has a law on the books to legalize, not legalize, to vote in the voter box, the ballot box. I'm a little bit nervous, and which was not in the Virginia Code, but they're going to put that in this year. There's a number of things that they have done like that. Susan sent you some information before. I also have the board information here that I would be glad to go over with you, answer the individual question. I'm not going to read it for you. I'm sure y'all probably read it yourself. And if you look down, that's why the compensation for election officers, we had to have 3 additional election officers per precinct, per the laws that we got up to the last week before the election. We could not advance, when we do our budgets, we couldn't project that they were going to change these laws right up a week before Election Day, but at any rate they did. And on the postage, they managed, they told us that we had to put stamps and everything on the mail-out ballots, on the return ballots, and everything. Consequently, our postage rates just skyrocketed. But the postage rates, just like part of Susan's salary and other things, the state refunds money on that, just like they refund 69% of her salary. They refund the postage. They also, like we applied for grants from our office for funds that are coming back into the county. So that's the whole picture. We only project the total expenses. We don't have anything to say that we offset that, just like the town elections. We put them in the budget here because the county has to pay for that up front. That's reimbursed to us. But we put it in the budget because we list all our expenditures in the budget and everything. So what we list in the budget is not what we actually spend. When we get the postage back, we get the town money back, we get grant money, and anything else like that that we applied for, her salary money, that comes back in, but that's not in the projections. We don't do the reimbursements, we only do the expenses. So, is there anything else on the electoral board that I can answer for you?
I had one question.
Yeah.
How was the General Assembly's move to move town elections from May to November going to affect what we do?
That goes into effect this year.
Will we have town elections this November, or we?
July 1st is when that goes into effect, and
Yeah.
I was just gonna get ready to speak to that.
Yeah.
That's gonna basically knock off the whole price that we kind of put in that first item of the May elections, because it's gonna force it into November, so they're going to no longer have to foot the bill, so to speak, or we're gonna have to foot it and they reimburse.
Yeah.
Can the person speaking actually speak into the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's helpful.
You mean,
I mean,
Yeah. So actually, the town elections will be, next year, it will basically only be the additional ballots and things like that. We won't have a separate transportation, different towns. I don't have to put election officers in each town. That would no longer be because they'll be incorporated into our November elections.
So there should be some
And that'll
savings.
that'll save the towns the monies that they have previously paid for the elections. Okay, Mr. Larson? Yes, sir.
You talked about reimbursement from the towns having to pay up front, but not getting it till November. As I mentioned in the email, which everyone's privy to here, I have not been able to find where reimbursement has come in from the towns. Can you tell me what revenue line number that it comes in on?
I think Susan will speak to that, Mr. Larson.
I don't have the revenue line number. I'm assuming it was requested for it to go back to the electoral board expenses for elections, which is 15848. The three deposits were as follows. Irvington paid in August, Kilmarnock paid theirs in July, and Whitestone paid in August.
Okay.
So those amounts were put
But you
back
don't-
in.
But you work with either the treasurer or Ms. Stevens or both in
Yes,
getting
sir.
that reimbursement back, is that correct?
Yes. We bill the towns for basically everything, and then it is reimbursed back.
Can I ask that you find out where that was picked up at, and, it has been for the last several years, what line item it's been picked up on? Because again, I can't find it. I can find, as measly as it is, I can find what the state comes up with, and there was a time when they basically covered everything. They certainly covered the registrar's salary. That's not the case anymore. They're only coming in with a small portion of the monies that it costs to provide the electoral services. So every penny that comes back is important.
Sorry.
Yes.
And, it's just, it's a real problem. It's not your problem, I recognize that, what the state gives us and what they don't give us.
Are you,
Right.
let me be clear, are you asking what line item it goes back into?
Well, I'd just like to know that it's coming back. For example, when I had Betty do it yesterday, she found the last time there was any payment at all was $43,000 from the state in June of last year. And and what keyed me to it is that when I looked at the financial report for this year, for the first time that I've ever looked at it, there was nothing in there in revenue from the state
Right.
to compensate or pay their share, if you will, of the electoral costs.
Right, since the cost is offset, it would probably be more appropriate, because it's a non-issue now, to have it footnoted and not included in their projection of expenses that the county have to pay. We could have been footnoted since it's a wash.
Okay. It's just,
like I say, it's problematic because the state will not give you any money unless you ask for it. They'll just sit back and wait for you, you know, and it has happened where, you know, you go back and you look and you find out that so for whatever reason, the request got sidelined, it didn't go in, but we did not get those monies that were due us.
Right.
And they are bigger and bigger all the time.
Yes, sir, and just like the grant money that our office prepared and got for the county to offset expenses, we have no reimbursement column, but that's money that will be coming back to the
It
county.
come back into the general fund.
Yes, sir.
You know,
But,
and
you know-
everything in your budget's paid out of the general fund.
Right.
It's just that that we don't get from the state or that we don't get back from the towns comes
Correct.
out of the general fund
Correct.
Yes, sir.
and county taxpayers.
Mr. Larson, I will try to find what line item they were. I talked to Bonnie specifically on the phone with Lee yesterday, and she gave me those dates of deposit.
Okay.
But I'll try to get the rest of it or get something for you.
Yeah, you know, I think the treasurer could be very helpful too.
Yes.
Right. And we've sent you,
Thank you.
we've sent you a
Sure.
lot of paperwork. Is there any question on it?
Yeah.
I don't want to take up your time to read these things.
Thank you.
I got a question on the compensation for the election officials. So it's an increase of $13,000. So what I'm hearing is the number of people you have, you anticipate having that number again going forward, even though the towns and things like that all
I'll
going to
answer
November, you're still talking about the same number of people?
If the laws stay the same,
It'll stay the same?
yes, sir. If the law stays the same. I mean,
If the law stays the same, okay, if the law
like-
stays the same.
One
Yes,
of the
sir.
biggest increases too with that is the 45 days of voting that requires somebody every day, one person, one officer, checking in people just like they were in a precinct. So that's a huge expense per election.
Each election is 4,500, so we do 3 of them. So that's 13,500 when they just added the 45 days.
Yeah. But you're right, the May elections are now moved, so that's something when we made these, we were not aware of, that's just come through. There's a stack, I understand, on his desk of waiting signatures that we're just kind of in limbo of what they're going to tell us to do for this go-round.
So, go ahead.
When you said there were rules or law changes coming up to the last week, where were those coming from? The Department of Elections or?
General Assembly,
Yes, sir.
the governor.
So were
Yeah.
they like executive orders then?
Yep.
No,
The-
no one executive orders. It was from the.
Or were they
gen-
from the
general
special
s-
session?
From the
special
general,
session
from the
this
General
summer?
Assembly.
Assembly
See,
special session,
when the
yeah.
General Assembly majority changed, the new majority came up with all these different election laws. And so we didn't have any way to project them, you know, just like we didn't have any way to project some of these other things that came down a week before November.
I'm just saying, like, I'm thinking like, if they're coming down a week before the elections and you have to implement stuff, it's kind of like is a last minute type of thing, and that
Right.
to me would cause some question in the election process if you're changing rules and
Oh,
things
it
at the last
absolutely
minute.
does.
Yeah, yeah.
We're waiting right now, perfect example, we got a memo today from the state. There is a bill on the governor's desk waiting for signature. The General Assembly is going to reconvene on April the 7th to take it up. Once they decide on it, then the governor has 30 days to sign it. That bill has to do with how we are going to treat absentee voting. That starts before they even sign the bill. So potentially, we're going to have voters that are voting one way at the beginning, and then they're going to shift the law and change the rules.
I've got another question in regards
crazy.
to this. This is all kind of crazy because we normally get the preview of the census early, which would allow us to redraw and
Right.
be ready. But we're not going to do that. So is this going to mean that we're going to have 3 General Assembly elections back to back to back? Because essentially, this year, we're going to have to go with the maps that are drawn already.
Right.
In November. But next year, in 2022, the new maps will be in place. So
Right.
then the districts will be out of whack potentially, and the representation will be out of whack, which would require another General Assembly election, correct?
That's
mean-
my guess. Don
And then in order to stay on the 2-year cycle, you're gonna have to have another General Assembly election.
To catch it
requiring
back up.
3 General Assembly year elections back to back to back to back in order to stay constitutionally within the law right now.
Right, and we'll have no way to put the redistricting cost projections into our budget until they pass it at last
So what
minute.
I'm basically getting to, there's a heck of a lot of unknowns coming down the pipe.
Absolutely.
It
Still
always has been,
unknowns.
yeah, and Susan
It's
had it,
getting worse
right.
by the year,
I mean,
honestly.
This whole census delay is a real quagmire for Virginia and New Jersey.
Yes. But I will say a lot of our numbers also, that we do mention the redistricting in both the electoral boards and mine. And with that not taking place, those numbers will come down just because of that. Those costs won't be there.
I got a question going back to what you made, a statement you made earlier about the voting being pushed to May. On the compensation election officials, the $13,980 additional being requested, are you saying that is still needed or not needed?
Yes, sir, as long as we have the 45 days, as long as we're
So
required
that's
to.
still needed.
To maintain the ballot boxes, as long as we're required to have duplicate
Poll book,
poll books.
paper
and-
poll
and-
book.
And people to staff those, and as long as we have to go in and clean the booth after each voter so that there's no COVID. Those are the type of things that came down at the last minute we had no control over.
What was the point of having digital books and paper books? That seems like another thing that would cause confusion at the polls.
You'll have to ask the General Assembly that. It wasn't anything we wanted.
We get caught in the crosshairs of this a lot, and it is unfortunate.
Okay. Any additional questions of the gentleman? No? All right.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Gentlemen, I'm thinking we might want to discuss this a little before we vote on this, okay? All right, so we're gonna move on and do this one later. All right. EMS, Mr. Smith. That's page 2831.
All right, good evening.
Unit.
So I've got 3 accounts to go over. I put together a budget narrative that I included in my packet, if I get off track. So the biggest reflection in my budget change is the part-time salaries. So that's gone up just because our increased coverage request. So for 2019, we did 49 additional shifts. For 2020, we did 105. So our part-time, pretty much for the past 3 years, has averaged about 20,000 a month. So we're pretty on track for that increase. The second part of that is the salaries change, just reflected staffing changes that we've had with departures and new hires throughout 2020. I did also present a base pay increase of 50 cents to all positions. Everything else is the same that was adopted in 2019. That was the only difference, and that's just because we're getting left behind on our base pay with the surrounding counties. So that'll help retain. I've actually hired my last pending application, so there's currently none sitting if we get in a jam. Outside of that, that's about it for the staffing. The increase for account 3199 is to reflect the $15,000 contract for the operational medical director for all 3 agencies. That hasn't changed. That's the same amount that was voted on last time. 6016 and 6013 was just combined. Another new item I added, I presented this last year for 8207 for our durable supplies. Most of our supplies are getting to be 5 to 10 years old now and are coming up in just need of replacement. So over the next 2 or 3 years, I want to try to get those taken care of. That'll cover our splinting and backboard equipment and just different durable rescue equipment, not under disposable supplies. That is pretty much it for 32301. 32310 was level funding from last year and the year before. 32403, the advertisement plan was changed under 3600, just to reflect the current advertisement for the volunteer programs. It's about 75 and growing active CERT members. They've been pretty active during the testing and vaccination clinics especially, as well as during the tornado response. And that is pretty much it.
Okay. Gentlemen, you have any questions of Mr. Smith? Okay.
Matt, you may have covered it, but back under 32301, your actual in professional services for FY20 was $33. We adopted 500 for FY21. Why the big jump to 15.5? What are we getting there now that we haven't gotten before?
Which line was that?
That's the medical director. The
It's
15,000.
32301 and it's line number 3199.
That's the medical director contract.
It's the what now?
The medical director contract? The medical director contract?
You all, Chief Smith came before you all last fall and presented a supplemental appropriation request for a medical director position. It was $15,000. You all approved that, and so that's what he's reflecting in this budget. That's what that is.
But you said position, but it's going to be contract, right?
It's contract, yes.
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 Okay, yeah, no, I do recall that now,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any indication of how many calls that increased this year, or did you have an increase in calls through the COVID time?
Our call volume actually dropped off from 2020, but in the past 6 months, we've skyrocketed. So we ended last year, I believe it was 2508. And so that was pretty much on board with 2019, which was one of our highest years. And then so far, our average is about 6 calls a day this year. So it's been really busy.
All right. Any additional questions?
I might have missed it, but how are you on staffing now? 'Cause I keep looking at the overtime and the part-time. So how are you on staffing for us?
Yeah, December and January hit us pretty rough. We were down 7 pretty active employees for both months. So trying to get those shifts filled, I mean, it was staffed with over 100 hours of overtime for each pay period. But they really stepped up and helped us get that covered. But right now, we just got our last person was on injury leave. He came back today. So as long as we can maintain, we can adapt if we have 1 or 2 people go out. But anything more than that is hard to staff.
Okay. Any additional questions? All right. Thank you, Mr. Smith. All right, gentlemen, are you all in favor of voting now for the request for the emergency medical services? All right, all in favor of the budget request being added to fiscal year 2022, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous vote there. All right, thank you. Broadband, that's it, isn't it?
No, you got
after-
Sheriff McCraney.
Sheriff McCraney.
Okay, I'm trying to jump over you, Mr. Sheriff. All right, come forward, sir. Page 26, 27, and 32.
All right, whew, take this off.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much for allowing me this time. As you well know, I'll always like to include the stats of the previous year, and as you can see, our staff, even though with COVID, we started off really slow last March for several months. We came to a standstill for the most part, but we definitely rebounded, and our guys and gals at the Sheriff's Office were super busy. I'm going to start out with account number 31200, line item 1100. I'm going to go ahead and skip over that for the most part for right now. As many of you know, the General Assembly, the Appropriations Committees came together, and they agreed to give the Sheriff's Offices statewide a 5% pay raise. So I would like to skip over that, but I would also like to come back to that when I finish going through this, please. Line item 1300, which is part-time. Court will increase greatly in 2021 due to many violent crimes that the county has experienced, and we will have many jury trials coming up, and we've been given a heads up by the circuit court clerk because of that. And I will come back to that line item as well. Line item 3320, the Community Services Board fee is $10,000 per year, and I caught that last year, but with COVID, well, I was unable to present that. That's their fee, and that's what it cost us to screen mental health patients, which we end up with and have to transport those folks as well. Line item 5699, which is academy dues, that's increased to $18,200. And to be honest with you, I don't know how much more that's going to increase. The General Assembly has cut the funding to the academies. Though they want more training, they've cut the funding to regional academies. We've gotten an email from the director of the Regional Academy in Fredericksburg. We don't know where that fee is going to go to. I can't tell you. If they don't refund it, it's probably going to go significantly higher. Line item 8205, which is motor vehicle equipment, there's a modest increase in that.
Patrick, let me, a quick question on that
Yes.
academy. So we just pay a fee and you get to send as many officers as need to go to it?
That's
Essentially,
correct.
that's how it works?
That is correct.
Okay.
But just to FYI that, they don't supply anything else. No ammunition, nothing. We have to supply that, unfortunately. So it's not cheap. And as many of you know, ammo is very difficult to come by.
Where is the academy at? So an officer would have to stay up there and you'd have to provide the housing, all that stuff, so
That
there's
is correct.
additional
Yes,
expenses
food
there.
as well. They don't serve food. They used to, they don't anymore.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Line item 8207, which is computer equipment. We're in the process of replacing several of our desktop and laptop computers. And Advanced Network has increased some of their licensing fees, which is $4,000 into the licensing fees. The jail account 33100, which is line item 3310, which is repairs and maintenance. We need a new dryer, and they're the large industrial type dryers. That's $7,000. The 3 admin offices, we've gotten 2 estimates. I've gotten 1 quote back for the 3 offices, and one is really bad. That's the admin office. The first office to the left, that carpet is pretty rough. It's $5,000. Line items 6002, which is food supply. Quite frankly, our jail population is way up. And I contributed much of that to Mr. Spencer. When we're locking people up, they're staying in jail for quite some time. So our jail population is way up. Last, the staffing for the dispatchers, and I know that's just something I wanted to FYI the board. Asking for 2 more full-time dispatcher positions, which will allow us to have 2 on duty at all times, especially on night shift. And beginning in 2023, all dispatchers will be mandated to be trained in emergency medical dispatch. So if a dispatcher is online with an emergency medical call, that dispatcher has to stay on that call and provide medical assistance to the caller. They can't do anything else. They cannot answer the radio. They can't do any, answer a 911 call. So it's going to be extremely important. Mr. Larson, I did get your email, sir, and I did respond, and it may have been a little late, but
Yes, sir, I saw your return email.
Yes, sir. And I'd like to, go, if it's okay with the board, can I go ahead and begin answering those questions? We can
Yes.
wrap right back around to line item
And
1100.
basically, as far as your presentation, you're basically about done with that?
Yes, sir.
All right, so this is gonna be the question and answer session.
Okay.
Okay, all right. And any statements you wanna make? All right. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Answer to some of the questions. And this pertains to line item 1100. And I met with all the board members last year concerning several issues, including the open road deputy position that had been open for approximately 2 years. After conferring with all the Board of Supervisor members, I had a majority consensus to fill the position, and if needed, to come back with a supplemental appropriation request. And with all the violent, and I did fill the position, and with all the violent crimes that we've had occurring since last year, I can say that I'm certainly glad this position was filled. We certainly need it. The pay raise issue, obviously, that was, the appropriation committees have agreed to give Sheriff's Office a 5% pay raise. So, you know, I was very surprised that happened. Part-time, line item 1,300. And as many of you know, last year the court was closed or partially closed for several months. This year the court is making up for lost time, and we have many more court dates, including many jury trials that are coming up. And this will require our bailiffs to be available. And many times, and this happened once this year already, we've had 2 courts on the same day. That's going to happen. We're going to have generally general district and circuit on a Wednesday. Judge McKinney has quite a bit of cases coming up. And also our bailiffs have taken on an extra task, and that is helping to clean the court. They have to sanitize everything. We've had a COVID outbreak over the court clerk's offices, and as you all know, the courts were closed a couple weeks ago, but our deputies have been stepping in to help clean. Last year, we lost 2 bailiffs. We gained 3, but one of those bailiffs only works basically 1 day a week, and they work the circuit court for the most part. That's all they work. This person is our key liaison with Judge McKinney, the circuit court judge, and this person does all the necessary court and sheriff's office paperwork, some of which has to go to the Department of Corrections. So that all has to be lines, T's crossed and I's dotted. It's very important to keep.
So this is a retired person coming in
Yes,
to
sir.
do this because they're really trained to do
Yes,
this
sir.
very well. Thank you.
That's correct, yes, sir. David Hudson's our accreditation manager. He was the former patrol lieutenant. And that is very time-consuming. And I just want to say today, the Sheriff's Office was presented with our 4th award for reaccreditation through the Virginia Law Enforcement Professional Standards Commission, and we scored 100%. We take our professionalism very serious, and that's what that is. And that position right there, David is also an assessor. He goes to other law enforcement agencies and conducts what was conducted on us back in January. It's very time-consuming. The folders, and I would invite anyone to come and take a look if they so wish and see how much time that takes. I cannot replace David quickly. It would take someone to learn that position a long time. And if Dr. Westbrook, I know that you oversee emergency services, you're more than free to come and take a look.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Marty Sharilla, he certifies all of our criminal reports that go to the state police, which is required, and all of our NIBRS, which is National Incident-Based Reporting System, NIBRS, which goes to the FBI. Again, those are all our criminal reports that have to be reported to the FBI and the state police. That is extremely time-consuming, and with all the crimes that we've had and all the reports that our deputies and detectives have been taking, there are a lot of reports. And again, I would invite any member of the board who would like to come see how extensive that is to conduct that and send all those reports to the state police and the FBI. It's a lot of work. It really is. And again, Marty Sherrill is the retired chief deputy. He used to do it. He retired, and he did it for so long that that's one of those positions that is extremely hard to fill full-time. That right there is almost a full-time job, I can promise. And the rest of our part-time are bailiffs, and again, they all have to be law enforcement certified. We cannot hire just somebody off the street to do that job.
Okay, question. Mr. Lawson.
So if I understand you correctly, and I do apologize, I had difficulty hearing you.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. But with respect to the part-times as it relates to the 1,100 line item, which is full-times, as I understood it, what you're saying is, you know, as you have people retired in a position that did you have any retired full-time that then became part-time?
From last year?
Even the last 2 years? Do you have positions that where people were filling full-time, that when they were retired, you converted that to part-time? Any of those?
Only the accreditation manager, that's it.
Okay, so.
But everybody else was, if they worked the jail or a road position deputy, there were some that went over to the court as bailiffs, but bailiffs only.
Okay, I guess the problem I have with understanding that is I went back to the personal services section, which, as you know, lists everybody, their compensation, it's, you know, and it reflects the number of full-time you have. For FY '21, and it's the way it was submitted in the budget, there were 25 full-times, no vacancies showing on there. Now, you mentioned that this position that was filled had been vacant for 2 years. I would have expected to see that as a vacancy on the FY '21 if it had been 2 years. And then I get to FY '22 and I see 26 names there. Now, there are 2 names that came off the FY '21 and 2 new ones came on, so you had that much turnover. But there was a 3rd one there, and now, if I understand you correctly, with the accreditation person, you actually should have been back down to 24 instead of 26. That's you know, the math is just not working for me. Do you see what I'm saying?
I think I'm trying to understand what you're saying, Mr. Larson. We hired an extra road deputy position last year. We filled that position back in September, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, after meeting with all the board members.
But again, it should have shown up as vacant on the FY '21 budget submission. Mr. Gill, am I missing something?
No, when I started this role in 2018, he had 24 full-time positions under law enforcement. I counted 24 instead of 26.
On
And,
the FY '22 personal services,
yes,
you counted 24?
yes.
I better go back and count again then. Yeah.
But what I was going to say was, when I started here in 2018 in this position, he had 24 full-time positions under law enforcement, and 1 was vacant at that time. And the Finance Committee at that time asked him not to fill that position at that time. And he didn't. He didn't fill that position at that time. And it carried forth for the next couple of years with turnover that he wasn't able to fill it. And then this year, I think he was able to fill it. So he's back to full staff. But you're right, it did not reflect in the FY '21 budget, and it should have. So,
Okay,
I mean, you know, I'll share some of the blame on that, so that
all right,
it should have been reflected.
thank you.
One quick question. The amount you have reflected here in change in salaries, that's the 5% state increase is what that's reflecting?
Yes.
Is that the county share of the 5% projected, or is this the 5% overall?
We have 12 full-time county-supported positions.
And
The
so
rest are
that-
comp board.
That 143,000 is for the uncomp board plan?
But yes.
Okay.
And if I could just say, in my meetings with you, I have told you personally that I believe part of the issue is that you did without the number of people you needed. You kept to a budget very closely when in fact you needed to have that person. And we're just now catching up with that. So, and I just want to say I applaud you for the job you're doing. I applaud you for getting 100% on your certification. That is huge. And there's very few sheriff's departments across the state that pass this. Is that correct?
With 100%, very few.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Dr. Westbrook.
Thank you.
Okay, yes, sir.
I essentially was going to say something along the same lines as Dr. Westbrook brought up. I'm going to keep looking real close at your numbers. execution and whatnot like that. But I do want to compliment you on two things in front of everybody here.
Okay.
The first thing is that you're standing before us and you're talking about your budget. You as sheriff, that's something new. I was with the county for what? I don't know how many years before you came on board, and that wasn't the case. So I will say that to me, that's a big plus. The second thing is that you are executing within your budget. Now, that should be a given. That should be a given for every fund administrator, or if not, they come in for a supplemental, but you are. So when I look at these things, it's just, like I say, that's my thing, and I will look at it. But I want you to know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just want to clarify one thing. Mr. Larson used 26 and I used 24. If you add in the two school resource officers, it is 26, so you are
Okay.
correct.
All right, thank you.
You are correct, yeah.
No, yeah, okay.
I wasn't adding the school resource officers in, but.
All right, but they could, yeah, that's still part of the beginning.
Any further questions or comments?
Jason took care of it, because I was questioning that 143,000.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Board.
Now, gentlemen, what's your pleasure? Do you want to postpone this for further discussion, or you want to vote on it now?
Vote.
Vote, okay. All right. All those in favor of the budget request by the Sheriff's Department being added to the fiscal year 2022? Raise your hand. Aye. All right, unanimous? Okay, good. All right. Now I think we're finished, correct?
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I would add that we have a couple of representatives here tonight from the Boys and Girls Club. For whatever reason, email problems, we didn't connect and schedule them. So I asked them to speak during public input at the regular meeting, and they agreed to do that. But if you would like to give them 5 minutes now, that's up to you, if you would like to do that.
We can give them 5 minutes now.
Okay.
All right. I know I saw them walk in and I didn't see them on the list. I said, okay.
I think we've got some email issues. I think Philip said he sent me an email. I never got it, and so we'll have to check on that.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I have a handout for y'all to show some of our impact from last year.
Don, what number of page of the budget is this?
Okay, yeah, I don't know that one off the top of my head.
35?
39.
30 what? 5 or
I
9?
just wanted Don. Don, did you want to?
What page you said?
I think he
39?
said 39.
39.
39.
39.
Yes.
You ready?
Yeah.
You ready? Okay. Thank you all for squeezing us in. My name's Jill Sears, and I'm the new Marketing and Development Director at the Boys and Girls Club of the Northern Neck. As you know, the Boys and Girls Club has been serving Lancaster County since 2008. And for 13 years, the Boys and Girls Club has been providing a positive place for kids ages 6 to 18. We offer programs that provide academic support like Power Hour and Brain Gain, and now we are providing computer assistance to students learning virtually and in hybrid models. We promote healthy lifestyles with nutritious meals and snacks, sports and fun activities like Zumba that gets kids moving. Our programs like anti-bullying and Passport to Manhood and Smart Moves for Girls help kids develop into caring and confident young adults who believe they can truly make a difference in their communities. We also provide mentoring and post-graduation planning to help club members chart a path to success beyond high school. Several of our teen members serve as interns at the club, and several have returned from college to work as program leads. It's truly inspiring to think of the number of lives the club has impacted in a positive way over the years with your help. Last March, when the COVID pandemic was just breaking, the governor mandated schools and business closures. When the club closed, we did not stop serving youth and families of Lancaster County. We immediately began working to fill the gaps in service to our club members. Knowing that 92% of our kids qualify for free or reduced cost lunch, we knew there would be a need. So we went into action behind the scenes. BGCNN set up distribution points through the county and reached out to our families to let them know that meals and Club on the Go packages would be available with activities for their kids' entertainment. From March to August, we provided 26,000 meals and almost 13,000 snacks to Lancaster kids.
When we were able to reopen, we did so in a whole new way. The Boys and Girls Club in the Northern Neck has moved from a 4-hour after-school program to an 8-hour-a-day operation. With help from our community partners like Dreamfields, who has provided us use of their Hayden building, we have established academic support centers to help kids who are navigating this virtual school system. What was once a power hour of homework and after-school help is now staff helping students log in daily and tracking their schoolwork. For many students and parents, this has truly been a godsend. I know of one child who came into the club one day and we found out he was 44 assignments behind. When the staff realized this, they sprang into action, and one member stuck with that kid until he caught up with his assignments that day. And that was a really cool thing to see. Teens attend the club for free. We recognized that the temptation to leave school would be real for these teens. So we wanted to provide safe outlets like our Teen Chef Club, anime clubs, and we've even extended hours so that teens who are working during the day or possibly caring for younger siblings can access the club after 5 o'clock. We provide STEM activities and arts and crafts, and guest Zoom speakers have encouraged our kids through this pandemic. The club is a great place to be. We continue to recognize Youth of the Month, and our Youth of the Year nominee will participate in a statewide competition next month. The Youth of the Year process is a rigorous one, requiring essays and presentations, and the growth in confidence and voice of our nominee has been wonderful to witness. All of this is to say that the Boys and Girls Club of the Northern Neck provides a safe and fun environment while parents are at work. Recently, one of our board members was at the Rappahannock Westminster Canterbury, and one of the managing directors commented to her, "You know, if it hadn't been for the Boys and Girls Club, many of my employees wouldn't have been able to work when the schools were closed." We provide a network of support that is good, not just for kids, but for the whole community. I could continue to tell stories of kids who were struggling at home, trying to learn, dealing with isolation, and they've come to the club and excelled and are happy again. But I'm running out of time, and the message is that your past support has helped to make this happen. This evening, I'm respectfully requesting that you renew our funding to support the costs incurred for extended hours of service in our academic support centers. Our request outlines the need for assistance with the cost of training our dedicated staff, wages and salaries that are competitive to retain our staff, safety and security measures that have been stepped up due to COVID, and the expenses associated with transportation, maintenance, utilities, and supplies. Your support will help us to continue to provide a safe place for academic support and socialization for Lancaster kids. In the long run, that benefits us all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Where did the 31,700 meals come from?
So that paper that I sent you is a combination of our impact for the last year. So Lancaster County makes up 3/4 of our programming, and we also serve Northumberland County. So that number includes Northumberland meals.
But where do the meals come from?
The meals are provided through,
We receive funding through the Department of Education, CACFP and SFSP programs, so the food cost is covered, but it did not totally cover the cost of our staffing to implement.
I mean, you go to the store and buy stuff and make a meal? Because we just heard Tuesday about the Healthy Harvest Food Bank and how many people they're serving, and I was wondering whether you got the food from them as a distributor.
We work with the food bank, but we also have, our distributor is Performance Food Group that comes once a week to the club for the last several years now.
So they come to you with these?
We order and they bring us the food, and then we cook it and we disseminate it into the community where it's needed. During that time, from March 31st to April 14th, when the majority of those meals are being served, until the schools reopened and things started happening a little more in the fall. And then we kind of pull back and only serve our internal kids now and their families.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Talk to me a little bit about your Teen Chef program.
So Teen Chef program is run by a young man named Richie Carter, and what he does is on Fridays, they prepare a special food. They decide what they want to make. He teaches them how to make it, guides them through making it. Richie has experience in catering and restauranting, and so he is teaching the kids some life skills, and they have a great time with it.
Is this done on site?
Yes.
Oh, good, all right. Okay, any additional questions, comments? Thank you, ma'am.
I got one. Are you
one-
planning a grand opening for your new building, or?
We've been trying to plan it for months now. We had a soft opening where we probably have about 50 kids or so a day, maybe 60. As soon as VDOT, CDC, and the governor allows us, we plan to have a nice size. I hope that you will, when you come and visit, you will agree that we have spent the community's money wisely from all of our donations and the grants that we received in the last 3 years. It will pay dividends in the long run.
Yeah, we're really hoping to be a community hub, so you're invited to the grand opening when it happens, for sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, are you ready to vote on the request being added to the fiscal 2022 year? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. All right, okay, that's a unanimous vote. Okay, now we are going to the Broadband Authority. We have a joint work session. And that is page 44.
Mr. Chairman, can I,
Yes, I'll wait for you. Thank you.
Yep, that's all.
Have you got Cherie on your screens?
Glenn's bringing her up.
Oh, yeah.
We waited for one of our board members to come back.
Mr. Chairman, the chairman of the Broadband Authority needs to bring their group to order as
Okay.
soon as the fifth member gets zoomed in.
Can you bring them to order?
Oh, he's going to wait till Cherie's in?
Yeah, wait till she's coming by Zoom.
So I can see all of you, but I don't know if you can see me. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Cherie. We haven't got your
Okay.
picture yet, but
Is it all right
That's
if we
okay.
take
Well,
off-
as long as you can hear me if you need me. Thank you.
Is it all right if we take off our masks?
you can if you like. There you are. We got you now.
Thank you.
Let's wait for Mr. Larson to come back.
Okay.
Okay, I'd like to call the Broadband Authority meeting to order. We adjourned to this meeting from our 17th March meeting to this meeting to address our revised, our budget submission,
I believe you adjourned to this meeting for all purposes.
all purposes
This
in
is-
addition.
Okay.
We'd have other meetings then.
Let's wait for one of our members to
Oh,
return.
I'm sorry. Okay,
Okay?
okay. Oh, hi Cherie, she's there.
You're on the big screen.
All right.
Hello.
All right, first of all, I assume everybody got email I sent to Don on Tuesday with a revised budget submission. And I appreciate you allowing us the time to address this submission. First thing I'd like to say is, we've said over the past 3 years, it's been about 3 years, we started in April 2018 to say, fine, if we're going to do an authority, whatever, and we came on board 28 July. And we said everything, everywhere, eventually. Well, at least now we can say eventually has come to some parts of the county. This past year has been one of anticipation with ups and downs. We still haven't heard about the Russ application, but that should be coming any day. As you've seen, we did win the VDOT grant, and I can answer questions about that later on if you have specific questions about it. Our biggest thing that you're going to see in the budget is a salary for an executive director. I mean, we'll address each line as you have questions, but that's the one I think will take up most of the time. As you're aware and you participated heavily in, we've spoken to the Eastern Shore of Virginia's Broadband Authority and got a good number of ideas, ways to proceed, and as we go forth in bringing broadband to the county. And one of the biggest things we saw was the need for this executive director. So that takes a big chunk of what's in the budget request. What I'm going to do, instead of me doing all the talking, I'm going to say anybody on the authority first will answer any questions that they have more specific knowledge of, and if they want to make any open comments before I go into some of these, they're welcome to. Michelle, any opening? Gary? Kevin? Okay. You'll see another big increase. Oh, I'm sorry. Cherie, opening comments?
No comment.
Okay. She'll be making some. Two of the biggest increases we've requested, as you've noticed, and I gave you in this, I think it's a total of over $200,000 increase over what we've had in the past. The biggest ones right now, starting from the top line items, are the legal services and contract services. Those are major increases. And Cherie, I'll let you address those two.
Was that both the employment and the
No, the
administrative
legal-
assistant?
The legal and the contract services first, starting from the top
Oh,
line items.
Okay. Historically, for those of you who I haven't met, which is most of you at the Board of Supervisors, I've only had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Westbrook personally so far. So thank you for letting us join you this evening. Historically, since 2018, there hasn't been a lot of legal expense, in large part because there hasn't been a lot of contracting, because the LCBA is ramping up and trying to find funds in order to deploy this very important fiber network. Now, with the $4.2 million in the VDOT grant and anticipated other funding, as well as other grants that we're pursuing, the LCBA expects to ramp up and begin to deploy the network. Even leveraging the smart poles that the Lancaster County was smart enough to invest in with the CARES money is going to create opportunity, which means more contracting is going to be needed this year, coming year, than has been needed in the past. Legal services haven't been used that much. We've been fortunate to have the benefit of James Cornwall, who represents the Lancaster County, and would continue to look to him for assistance in these matters, but we probably cannot ride on the tail of Lancaster County without being able to cover the cost, the additional costs that might be incurred for his time and expertise. So that's the main reason for the increase in contracting. Obviously, there's a fair amount that LCBA can do from background perspective, not as actual legal guidance, because the LCBA now has at least 2 new lawyers on board, but we would still be looking for specific counsel to LCBA to assist where necessary. Any questions on that?
I have a question. The amount that you list is speculation. You're anticipating it could be this much, is that correct?
That's correct, and hopefully it wouldn't be that much.
Okay.
I guess I want to make sure I'm clear. I know you say you got 2 lawyers on the board there. I would say we're going outside and getting legal advice because, you know, the way I see it, Mr. Cornwell is still available.
Yes, in fact, we intend, I'm sorry if I wasn't clear, we intend to continue to rely on Mr. Cornwell for any legal services. However, there isn't sufficient funding in last year's budget to cover the anticipated extra demand that might be placed on Mr. Cornwell for the services that LCBA will need, and we assume that we will have to cover our costs for Mr. Cornwell's services.
Right, and then,
So in essence, that budget's for Mr. Cornwell.
well, yeah, but I would also comment, I got the green light. I'd also comment that it may be that I will need to bring outside counsel in too to help me on specific issues. I mean, as you know, I'm a general local government attorney, and I did represent the Eastern Shore of Virginia Broadband Authority for about 10 years, so I have some background, but there are specific legal issues relating to federal regulations and so forth that I may need to get assistance with from outside counsel, with the authority's consent, of course.
Any other questions on those two? Okay, on the next line item, advertising marketing. We've been telling the county for these 3 years, it's coming. And now that we know there is something coming, we want to put it out there to the county. Obviously, we'll use the rap record, we'll use the radio. We're going to start looking to Facebook page, all the things that we can to advertise. And in addition to this, we've been looking at having people come on board, and Cherise even made some contacts, has reached out, and Michelle and I had a very good conversation with a lady who is a PR professional. That's what she does, and she has volunteered to help us. So we met with her, and she's given us good ideas. And some of this will cost money. And if we want the county, the population, the community to buy into broadband and to subscribe to the service in the immediate future as it comes on board and down the road as we have hopefully Russ or other grants come our way, we have to get out there and say it's coming. We want to do education for the community because some of our older citizens don't understand broadband. So we want to do a lot of outreach to the community to help them come on board with broadband. So therefore, we put in for a bigger increase in the marketing advertising, some which will be free, but others will cost. This will also include somebody to do our web. We want to upgrade the web, so we're looking for a sort of webmaster. I mean, some of these aren't full-time positions, but we do want the right people to help us do it the right way to reach the most people.
One thing I would say on that, you know, because you talk about you want the community to buy into it, broadband, and we certainly do. But when you write something in the rap record and you just put in the southeastern part of Lancaster County, you're not talking those people's language. You better say, you know, Route 200, Route 354 or something, because they don't understand southeast Lancaster County. So if you want people to buy in, you got to come down to where they are and talk their language.
Well, we do plan on, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Bill, but we do plan on doing that. That was just to say there's something happening. But we will be providing at least, you know, 1 or 2 in the paper. We're going to have open meetings, invite the public to come in, not just say we meet the first and the third Wednesday. We're going to say open, come, talk to us, get down more into the weeds so people can get their questions answered. So this is all in the planning stage.
Yeah, so when you pick up the paper, you know, I need to know it's coming down my road or not coming down my road.
Right.
You know,
That will be
not
made
whether I'm
available.
not in the northeast or the northwest part of the county.
Well, we'll be assuming also once the infrastructure starts being planned and is then being sent to contract phase, let's say, to be built, the people along the route would be notified by some sort of mailer, say, hey, this is coming available, you can now order this in such amount of time.
Yep, as each stage, it's not, we don't want people to think, all right, we got this, next Monday they're coming. So we're gonna feed it to them so they know, all right, in 3 weeks you'll start seeing shovels in the ground or whatever at such and such a road at 200 or at this point. So people will know and they'll get involved in it. This one, well, with VDOT, we're not quite at that stage yet. Right now, we're waiting for DHCD. They have to come back to us now with contracts and so forth. So it'll be a while before we get there, but we'll keep the public informed through as many multimedias as we can.
I think you have to recognize on a grant, VDOT actually moves probably quicker than the federal. Maybe that's state versus federal, I don't know. But roughly, it takes about 6 months to get to contract with VDOT. And then they have a requirement to finish the build out by 18 months. So it should be completed theoretically if everything's on time and we meet it. It should be done within 2 years to build out. The problem in saying which road, Bill, eventually we're just gonna have to have a map. This grant was targeted at filling in the Swiss cheese where ABB had cherry picked, and these are the small pockets of homes that we have, essentially south and east of Good Luck Road, to give you a perspective. Okay, so it's very hard to say the roads. You really have to look at a map.
Anything else on that one? Mileage. Besides any mileage that we might incur going to a conference or anything, the executive director is going to be driving around, learning the county as we go and see things going into the ground. He'll be out there. One of his major assignments, of course, is going to be overseeing some of this along with ABB. So he's going to be out there doing a lot of driving around the county, and that's obviously more increase in mileage. So that's what we're assuming that's going to be. There's nothing personal about the mileage. It's all in part of what his duties will be, encompass what he'll have to do. Conference and education is the same as the past. As conferences come up, we may not need this much because of COVID. Things have been doing more in the webinar. So it may be that we're not going to do a lot of traveling to conferences. But when possible, either we'll be going, learning something new to continue to prepare for future expansions of broadband in the county. So I just can't give you a list of conferences or anything. It's out of our hands for that.
If you were indicating that they're mostly virtual, why is the increase of $5,000 to that line?
Excuse me, I'm sorry?
Why is there a $5,000 increase to the conference and education line if you said there's less conferences and more virtual?
I think really the recent addition, fiber, the key fiber conference given by the Fiber Association, last year it sort of fell through because of the COVID type of, COVID. They are actually planning a meeting in Nashville, having it spaced out and all that thing, and that will be this summer. And that's sort of the premier conference. For example, this is where we've met the person from the Eastern Shore, developed a relationship with him and moving forward. This is a key conference to understand not only equipment, it goes through marketing, it goes through operations, it goes through research, every phase of what you can be using. And we were thinking multiple people because we have people of different perspectives on the LCBA, as well as the executive director you would expect to go there also.
Okay.
So that's why. And the conference, to travel anywhere, it's at least $2,000 a person,
For sure.
if not more.
That's what we paid the last time for Florida.
Yeah.
It was about
Yeah.
$2,000.
Thank you.
Office supplies, the same, basic. EDP, both the hardware and the software. We're looking at a computer for the executive director. We're looking at whatever software he needs to do his job, and other software. We had, when did we lose that, end that, BRE?
We leased BRE for a year where we did a lot of the calculations and mapping for the county. We saved those shape files so they can be jumped into GIS. We need something, not necessarily BRE, but another software similar. The problem is just our own, Glenn is just overwhelmed. And the other place where we've been getting some of this drawings done, they can't do it gratis anymore. So they're asking for charges. So the thought is get the software, talk briefly with a potential candidate for our position, and he said there's several software he would like to consider. So that's why we haven't acquired yet. We want to make sure the executive director gets his choice of software that you go ahead and pick up. And I don't know whether it's a 1 or 2 seat license, but they run anywhere as cheap as $2,500 up to about $10,000. But I don't think we're going to there's a need for the $10,000.
But BRE helped us a great deal when we were doing the RUS application. It was well worth the investment for that one. So that's why we're looking at another software to help as we move forward. And of course, we don't want to keep monopolizing Glenn. He's got too much on his plate. So this will take things off of having to say, Glenn, can you help us? We'll be able to do a lot on our own.
Well, Don's got free time.
I've already asked him for a few things. Okay? Salary. All right, this one, I'm going to turn to Cherie because while four of us have interviewed a candidate, Cherie has done most of the homework and most of the talking to negotiate salaries, et cetera. So she's the one who has the most information, to be able to answer more specific questions that you may have. Cherie?
Yes, first let me ask, do any of the board members have any specific questions?
None.
Hearing none. I'll give you a little bit of background about the candidate who we've extended an offer to initially on a consulting basis for 6 months with the intention of him becoming a full-time employee as the executive director. LCBA was fortunate enough by the existing members, I was not here then, to have identified a gentleman who previously was the executive director of the Eastern Shore of Virginia Broadband Authority. And that started back in about 2009. He came on as a consultant there. He became the executive director. He later trained the gentleman who is now the executive director of the Eastern Shore of Virginia Broadband Authority. So his experience is broad and deep. There's probably not another candidate available with the depth of knowledge that this gentleman has. And more importantly, he's very excited about this project and helping Lancaster County get to where it wants to be with fiber to the home throughout the county. We went back and forth, like what's a fair compensation for somebody based upon the economics in Lancaster County versus, say, New York City or Washington, D.C., or some, Fairfax County, Virginia. When the candidate left the Eastern Shore, he was paid a compensation of $175,000 as the executive director. After some research, I uncovered that the existing Eastern Shore of Virginia Broadband Authority executive director, not as much experience, in 2018 was being compensated at $156,900. And I then looked at the consulting agreement from 2009 with the candidate we were considering, and he was being paid $80 per hour. And after discussion amongst the Lancaster County Broadband Authority members, we came to the conclusion that we should try and get as close to where things were in 2009 and 2018 as possible, recognizing that the candidate was being offered $175 per hour consulting rate currently, and that he was being paid substantially more than we were willing to offer when he left the Eastern Shore, which was several years ago. So after talking to him a bit and kind of explaining the difference in economics between where he is outside of New York City and where he was back when he was with the Eastern Shore of Virginia, and the project that is starting up, and we are like at a point similar to a startup when it comes to broadband deployment in Lancaster County, we reached an agreement that he was willing to accept $85 per hour, and for the full-time position, $161,900, which I think was lower than I thought we were going to achieve, but is reasonable and rational for where we are at this stage, and hopefully the ramp up will be faster and more formidable because we have somebody with so much experience. Questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Larson.
You all are an authority, and the Broadband Authority, right? Which makes you a separate entity from Lancaster County and the governing officials.
That's
right?
correct. Lancaster County Broadband Authority.
Okay. So at some point in time, there's an expectation that you would be self-sufficient. Now, I totally understand that you can't be self-sufficient until revenues start coming in. They should start coming in fairly quickly, not at the level that's necessary to fund these things. But I will tell you that I look at this as something of a loan. And that monies have to be coming back to the county at some point. I say get the best man you can, or a man or woman, excuse me. Get the best person you can for your executive director. And let me just tell you, you can't ramp up quick enough for the citizens of Lancaster County. You know that as well as I do. And I know you hear about it. And the only other thing we hear more about, or at least I do, is litter on the roads. So, you know, you need to have some autonomy. You need to be able to run with this thing, but you gotta, you know, we put this money out there, that's fine, but we want to see this thing ramp up very quickly. As far as the VDA, I'll just take a minute to talk about VDA. I haven't been a fan of VDA from the get-go for two reasons. Number one, it stops down here at Good Luck Road. The citizens of my part of the county get nothing from it, as I've said before. The other thing is that ABB has the person, is the entity that's involved, and I can't think of the term right now. You know what I'm talking about, the internet service provider, I guess.
ISP.
And I just do not have any kind of a good feeling about them. Here we are, we've gone probably 4 or 5 years where they don't even have a contract. And this VDA thing, I can see their handprint all over it, because it's the way they operated back when MetroCast was providing cable here. They picked the low-hanging fruit. That's what's going on. But I have this, you know, and it troubles me greatly that at some point in time, the end of the county, from Good Luck Road on down, all the way to the river, is going to be taken care of, and then packs are going to come off. And I could not stand that, whether I'm sitting up here or as a private citizen. So I tell you all these things, when I look at it, you know, yeah, I have questions about these numbers, and I hope that when it comes to legal services, we start getting things sorted out with Atlantic Broadband. Because I don't know how you're going to work this middle mile thing when you got a piece of Atlantic Broadband here and then a piece owned by the county here, and so on and so forth. But yet you've got to have the two connecting, and I just don't know. It's beyond me. So I tell you all these concerns, but the main thing is that I got you guys, I hope you're thinking as a business-type entity and a separate entity. And along those lines, this LCBA administrator, it's my understanding you will, and you already have to the degree you've incurred expenses, you pay the bills. This administrator, that's what they're there for, is among other duties perhaps, is all of these monies. Our person in that office over there is not involved in any of the disbursement. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, okay.
Goes to Betty.
Because that's important. That's important to, you know, actually, in fact, show you as a separate entity. I just don't want you guys to get too close to us on the money thing here, okay?
I don't want to be too close to the money. All your points, all valid, good questions, things that we're looking at. We're hiring the executive director will take us down the right path, especially with his background, et cetera, et cetera. That'll help a lot to keep us going the right way and take a lot off of us that we don't have the background and experience to do. We've got the right person. And then having this, and he was the one who recommended the administrator to do accounts, help with budget, all the documents, the papers you have to keep. So having that individual who's not a techie, but so we're trying to do it all the right way. And it costs money, but I think in the end it pays off because we'll have it done right. As far as ABB, once we get all of this started, VDOT, et cetera, not finished, but started, we have the other issue with ABB that we're going to be dealing with, the CATV. It is, and I get emails once every 3 or 4 months from the VP, and I say, when we see where we're going to be with VDOT, Russ, we will then talk to you. Because that might, I told him that might change our relationship. And he's like, okay. So they're sort of know that this is important, that we have balls in our court, and they know it.
Thank you.
If I could just say, Mr. Larson and I talked today on the phone about this, and certainly we've talked, and I've listened since I'm the liaison to the authority. And maybe my concept is wrong, but my concept is, and I've mentioned this at a meeting, at the Broadband Authority meeting, to get this started, this county, this Board of Supervisors is going to have to borrow millions of dollars. And it's going to be the taxpayers who are going to pay that off. And at some point, initially the relationship has to be outlined legally, but at some point, yes, you will always be in charge of how this deployment is made. But it's going to be the citizens of this county paying for it with a lump sum loan that's going to allow you to go as quickly, I hope, as your executive director wants it to go. That has to evolve. Unfortunately, some of the pieces of the puzzle are coming in, the timeline's not exactly right. But essentially, this is what I see, and I'm going to present to the entire board on April 1st a plan that I have for how that we can do this. So if I'm right, and if there's agreement, we would have a loan that the county would take out that would be paid by the taxpayers for use by the Broadband Authority to implement the plan. In my perfect world, you wouldn't be marching sequentially. You would be doing as much as you can countywide. The VATI part is part of it, but that's all it is. And you could be working that while you're working something else. So that's the plan that will evolve, that's what I'm saying. Nobody has all the answers right now, but I think we can do this. I welcome the executive director. It's a great thing that you guys are doing. And I look forward to what that executive director is going to say. I think he's going to have, it's not going to take him long to get a plan going that we're all going to be able to get behind. But initially, the money is going to come from the taxpayers. And my hope is, and what I'm going to say, I don't want to give too much away, but the tax money should continue to be paid for use by the authority until all the project is complete, all of it. The possibility exists that once subscriber rates come in and you have some working capital that way, that there's going to be a temptation to take the tax part out of it. And no, in my opinion, you keep adding on, you accelerate the pace. We asked, you remember, we asked Robert Bridgham, Executive Director of the Eastern Shore Broadband Authority, what would you do if you had more money? And he said, I would hire more crews to make it go faster. I would not want to be the last person on the end of the last road that you finally got to because you slowed your pace down. So I think we owe it to this county. I think we can do it. I think that people will get behind it once they understand what it's about. That's my hope. So anyhow, I don't know if that helps. Again, we had a conversation about this. It wasn't lengthy, but thank you.
Mr. Lee.
I've been listening at Mr. Lawson and Mr. Westbrook, and I guess my concern is, and you all are a separate entity, but yet and still, it's going to be the Board of Supervisors that's going to take any heat or repercussions about what goes on with broadband. So somewhere along the line, you all and the Board of Supervisors have to be on the same page, have to be marching to the same drum beat. So there's a communication vehicle that's going to have to start between the two. And, you know, we get a little bit of communication now, but going forward, you know, with the executive director, and I think that's a great move. That's a smart move. But we got to make sure, even though you're operating, you know, as a separate body altogether and stuff like that, you're still part of this county, and the Board of Supervisors is still the local government here. We are the governing body, and the taxpayers' money, just like Mr. Westbrook is saying, is gonna end up paying the bill. And we gotta make sure that we stay on the same page, and I'm glad to hear you all saying fiber to the home tonight, you know, because I think that's been something kind of waving back and forth, whether it's wireless or fiber or whatever it is, but I'm glad to hear that comment coming out tonight that is fiber to the home, because that's what we've been saying right from the start, that we want fiber to every home in this county. So I think it's things like that, we gotta make sure that we on the same page, because we the ones gonna be getting the calls from the citizens, from the taxpayers.
I'd like to make comment, one thing to Dr. Westbrook, and a follow-up to you. When you're saying that we're not just going to go down this area and finish this and maybe later, I agree with you 100%, which is why, in addition to anything and what you're going to propose to the board, whatever funds, you know, the board decides you want to give to the authority, we're still going to be looking at other federal, state funds, private investment, and as we get those, they're going to be thrown at another project. Nothing is going to sit back now that we've got VATI. Let's wait and see till the next one. We're still looking. We're not going to stop looking to get all the funds to do multiple projects at the same time, and they will not necessarily involve ABB.
But the problem is that sometimes the money that you receive as a grant from the state or federal level has strings attached and a requirement that you work with an ISP. When the ISP's vision is different from, I hope, from yours. We heard from Robert Bridgham. Again, I use that as the example because he's been doing it. And they're more interested in providing service to the people than they are profit. But that is a strange concept for an ISP to take. So yes, look for grants, that's fine. But I'm telling you, if we do what I hope we do, you're going to be in a good shape to start doing the way you want and not be tied down by APB, ABB, or any other ISP.
I agree. Well, that's why we're looking at, as you're aware, the private, we're looking at some private investment. We've been approached about that, and that we've been just sending out RFPs to get other people in.
Once the authority's up and running and is basically an ISP, why can't you be an ISP and get VATI money directly as an ISP?
You're absolutely right, but first you have to establish that.
Yeah,
you're
but like
an
once,
ISP.
like years from now, once it's established, wouldn't the authority be an ISP and be able to apply directly for VATI grants and get them directly?
Absolutely, if it is available. You know, one of the things RDOF has done, you can't have federal on federal money, and you can't have state on federal money for the same area. So as of right now, we know our census blocks were bought up by APB Consortium, Dominion, Northern Neck Electric, et cetera. There's a couple of small little census blocks that are owned by other companies that also can't bid on our, but the predominant share is from them.
So also,
That does not mean we can't run cable through that area too.
through that, you could be the ISP provider that works with whoever the buyer of the auction is, essentially.
No,
Dominion or-
actually, quite honestly, a business. You decide, I'm going through it, you're not using federal or state money, you can use a foundational money, you can do money from the BO, you know, however you want to get the money, except federal and state. So you know, they can't tell a business what to do if you have your own money, right? And that's, but if you're going state and federal funding, you have to follow their
those
rules.
strings. Have y'all designed a plan yet to where you think you would start this, or
Yeah.
are you gonna wait for the director to come in and kind of,
We would like him to confirm what we've done, but.
but
we
you've got a
certainly-
kind of an idea where you,
We have prioritized it as far as regions. We've split the county into 3 regions. I think most of you have seen, fundamentally, Region 1 is where you have the most unserved people. Region 2, it just happened, we named them this way. Region 2 has about half as many people that need to be served compared to Region 1. Region 3 is about half after the VATI grant that you still need to get to. There'll be roughly, whatever. But anyway,
so
region, that's why the plan is really taking advantage of a circuit we're establishing with the wireless project that we have going on. And that's meant as an interim solution. Start there, you sweep around, you pick up some of people in Region 2, and then essentially go down Pierce's Road and 350, eventually to 354.
So essentially, that was what was gonna be funded by the Rust grant, correctly?
Correct.
That was done
Originally.
the county.
So that was all, and that's been pared back, the Rust grant was pared back to about what? 10 million?
The total grant with match would be about 10.6. What we would have gotten from the government is 5.4.
So, but in terms of that, it was a broader area that we were gonna borrow $8 million for to let this fiscal year,
Right.
was in the budget, we took it out because it didn't get approved as part of that grant. But essentially, we could borrow $10 million, what you're saying, and do all that project.
Essentially,
And
yes.
at some point, like, I'm kind of with Mr. Larson, I would think this could be structured in a way that, yes, the taxpayers are funding it at first, but eventually the authority gets up to enough where it can fund itself and then start paying back that loan. Or
And
paying
that-
back,
That's exactly, and, you know, doing simple economics, we have looked at it where you pay the P&I. In other words, the broadband will be paying the P&I as you go along. The first couple of years are obviously lean because you don't have customers yet.
yep,
Okay, but then you have, as you get to 3, 4, and 5, the income statement, which you saw in the proposal, okay, says in year 5, we will be generating over $1 million. That's not profit, because you still have that big loan to pay off. So you either put that money into paying off things quicker, or continuing building out,
or a combination of,
or
Yeah.
however you want to do that.
So the biggest thing is, you heard us talk about the BRE networks earlier. We have a fully laid out design network for the whole county from stem to stern. Bringing our executive director in, he's gonna be able to look at that. A lot of it is duplicate of what already exists, but by us duplicating that, we eliminate Atlantic Broadband. That probably shouldn't be done straight off the get. We cover the areas that they won't cover. Get that up and running, and then we slowly move in on them. Mr. Lee himself, Verizon does all kinds of internet connection agreements with people. Hey, we'll drop circuit price 20%, blah, blah, blah. You tack 10 back on it, make money. So those avenues still exist for us, but we've run into a lot of headway with the local provider. So ultimately, to get everybody happy and get this done, we've got to start doing it ourselves.
yeah, and that's what I'm
That's
saying.
the
I
reality
think
of
we
it.
could borrow money really cheap right now, and over the course of just paying that loan for a year is not a huge amount to a percentage on the taxes, but will provide a huge benefit when you spread that out
Right.
over time, and eventually the authority will have enough customers because it's gonna be a superior service. I have AV now, I want fiber to my home, so I hope you get down to that region eventually too. But yeah, I think this is really achievable, and we can make some real quick progress if we have somebody who's qualified, which seems we have a good candidate. Management and leadership in something like this is critical, and whatever it costs to get the best you can, it's those pennies and dimes are well worth every one you dole out for that.
Now that
because,
broadband's such a hot word.
I mean, technology, you know, Kevin, it's a specialty thing, and so you either know it or you don't know it. You can't be some like quackpot and get this done.
We've kind of tracked with broadband becoming the hot topic for certain delegates and blah, blah, blah. Prices are going kind of up for no real, like, the price it used to cost to run a mile of fiber 5 years ago is probably 3 times what now, which really doesn't make a lot of sense because fiber's gotten a lot better.
Building materials are up 4,000%.
Everybody wants it, so we're going to charge more for it.
Well, it's also shortages. It's, right now, you're,
A year ago, a 2x4 cost $2, they're like $8 now.
All right. I want to move this on a little faster here because
Michelle,
7
one
o'clock is
comment.
fast approaching, so I want to move along a little faster here. All right.
May I please
Yes.
follow up to something Mr. Bellows said, because I believe it's very important if we're asking the taxpayers to fund this project. And that is, eventually, you'll have enough customers that it'll pay for itself. And so what all the citizens needs to recognize is that if for your homes, for your businesses, the more people who sign up for this service, which we anticipate fiber, you can't get better than that, will be excellent. But the more people who sign up, the more successful we will be, and the better their investment.
Yeah, that's where the marketing really comes in, and having a good marketing
Exactly.
campaign.
And I'd want one quick comment, because I was on a Zoom today with Commonwealth Connect, which is the governor's office in providing broadband assistance. And they pointed out that as far as Lancaster County is concerned, houses and businesses with broadband, the value of the house and the businesses go up as far as when you do the reassessments, and the taxes will generate, the investment will generate the tax to help pay it back.
Okay. All right. Mr. Gill, you mind handing out something? This is something that the board is requesting that the Lancaster County Broadband Authority do. And let me introduce this. I'm gonna make some comments. Down through the years, the previous boards, we've been talking about broadband access to the homes. And one year we got really serious about it, and I thought we were really serious about it. And we got the Northern Neck Planning District involved and everything, and we got a guy that did this down, I think, in some place near Southside, Virginia, and established that. So when we got to meetings, and we're having committee meetings and so on, and got to a point where we were really ready to pull the trigger, so I thought. And then one person spoke up and says, no, we want you to do something else. And the gentleman said, I thought you hired me to do this. They said, no, we only want this. So we ended up with a few internet service providers that was wireless. Now, having said that, this present board, wants to no longer give lip service, and I think everybody knows this, lip service to broadband access to every home, fiber. Not wireless, fiber. As much as possible, fiber. And what I have written here is some things that we want the Broadband Authority, Lancaster County Broadband Authority to do, so that we can all be on the same, I'm gonna read it because the public needs to hear too what's in here. I'm gonna read it word for word. So that we all can be on the same page at all times. And even with the Broadband Authority, membership changes. And because sometimes membership changes, if you don't have things written in writing, your goal and your vision, your mission can shift. But if you got it in writing, I don't care how many leave and new members come in, it's in writing, and they can always take a look at it and say, here's our goal, here's our mission, here's what we should be doing, and here's how we're going about doing it. So with that, let me just go through it. This is the Lancaster County Broadband Authority from the Lancaster County Board of Supervisors, March 25th, 2021. Developed the following along with the Board of Supervisors. We want to be participants with you on this. A vision statement. And I'm going to read this so people in the public can understand what we're talking about when we say vision statement. A sentence or short paragraph that describes the goals of the Lancaster County Broadband Authority. This statement states what you are to build and will serve as a focal point for your future actions. B, a mission statement. This is a short statement of why the Lancaster County Broadband Authority exists. Its overall goal, identifications of the goal of the authority's operation, the kind of product or service the authority provides, the authority's primary customers or market, and the authority's geographical region of operation. The mission statement may also include a short statement of the Broadband Authority's values or philosophies. C, we want you to develop goals with realistic completion dates, all right? And we realize that these can be flexible, all right? Because when you're putting down goals, that's what you're reaching toward. Sometimes you may not get there, or sometimes you may have to go a different way to get to where you want to go, all right? So D, develop a goals and evaluation tool that will be used to access or evaluate the goals and accomplishments of the Lancaster County Broadband Authority. The reason you need this is to always go back and see where you are. What do you need to change? Do you need to continue down the same path? Do you need to tweak something? You need this. And then the next thing, E, is develop a timeline for the use of the assessment evaluation tool, such as every quarter or or annually, so that you just don't say, well, 2 years later, let's evaluate ourselves. No, set that down now so that you can go back and evaluate yourself and you know what you need to do, or what's working and what's not working. So these are the things that we're asking. And letter F, develop a business plan. These things need to be in writing. They need to be in writing, and we as the board are asking you to do that and allow us to work with you in accomplishing these things. Okay, thank you. All right, any questions on me or comments?
No, it's all doable.
All right.
And we'll work on it, and we'll bring our executive director in to work on this
Good.
too. Since
All right.
he or she will be the one who will keep all of this moving as we leave from the board, from the
Right.
authority.
All right. This board is dedicated to having broadband access done as fast as we can get it done. So lip service is over. All right, okay, thank you. All right, anything else, gentlemen? Broadband Authority, Mrs. Thompson, anything else?
No, Mr. Palin?
All right, okay, good, all right. Well, thank you very much. I think this has been productive, all right, and we're looking forward to continue working with you. All right, thank you for your services, all of you.
Thank you.
All right.
Cassie, are you going to continue your meeting?
Yes, probably for a few minutes.
Okay. You're going to need to move somewhere.
Well, we can go over
You
that.
can go into my
Go
office.
to your office.
Yeah.
So you need to
Adjourn to his office.
either that or just state that you're moving your meeting to.
Authority's going to move to Mr. Gill's office for continuation of our meeting.
Okay. Cherie, did you hear that?
No, I did not.
Oh, we're going to move into Don's office to meet for a few minutes. I don't know, how
Okay,
do you
do
get
you-
her? She can.
She can call in. I've got a speakerphone in there. Yeah, and Gary knows how to work it.
Call in over
So, and Cherie, I emailed what Mr. Palin just went over to you, so you can
Oh,
have it.
perfect.
Okay.
I did hear the outline, which was excellent.
Okay.
And then if someone can just email me the phone number,
I
I'll
will
dial.
write it up and make sure you
I
get it.
I just emailed it to her.
Can we have a short recess?
Okay,
All right.
awesome.
Okay, while
Thank you, everybody.
You could take a
Okay, thank you. All right. While we're transitioning, we're gonna have about a 5-minute recess. And I'm saying to the ones of you for the regular public meeting, we're getting ready to go into a closed session. All right, so, oh, okay.
They're
All
just
right.
relocating. They're just relocating.
Oh, them themselves. Okay.
They're not being closed.
Oh, okay.
That looks good.
Bye.
from the break. We're on, let's see, public input session at the present time. We're at the present, public input session. Let me put this thing down. We're at public input session, and if anyone is participating remotely, would like to make a comment, click on the raise your hand icon located near the bottom of your computer screen, or press star 9 on your telephone. And when you are unmuted, state your name, district in which you live, and then make your comments. And you will be having 5 minutes to speak. And in 1 minute, when you have 1 minute left, I will notify you by, if you can see me, by raising this. If you can only hear me, I would warn you verbally. Okay? Do we have anybody online first? Not yet. Not yet. All right. Anybody in the public? Yes, sir.
Charlie Costello, District 2. We read the paper again today. Mr. Adair wrote about all the things I sent out. I ask you to read it. And I'd like to talk to Mr. Conwell, with your permission, about some of the things in our ordinance in regards to what I regard as potential loopholes that I think should be taken care of. And then talk to you again before the next meeting. But I still think comprehensive plan needs to be done. I think Mr. Barnes is doing an excellent job, and I support what he's doing. And I think things are getting watered down that shouldn't be. Thank you very much.
Okay. I would request that you send your, what your concerns are, or what your request, or what you want to talk about, send that in writing to the county administrator, and he would forward it to the county attorney. And then we get the information back to you.
I always thought that anybody could talk to anybody within the county. That this is not privileged information or being cleared through.
It is not privilege.
Yes, it is, Mr. Palin. That is not freedom of speech or anything else. I have every right to speak to any employee
I'm thinking about the precedents that we will be
county.
setting, where everybody will be wanting to come to our county administrator,
Thank you very much.
county attorney. So my request is that you follow what I ask. Thanks.
Sir.
All right. All right, we can move on. Anyone else, public input session? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Clay Holcomb, District 3, owner, Chesapeake Boat Basin. You'll see there's a few of us in here tonight. We're just here to kind of bring an update to y'all, like we told you we would do periodically.
If you want to remove that, you can.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I forget I have it on now. Just to kind of give y'all an update of what's going on since the no boat tax and the improvements that it's made at the business and things that we've seen in our industry. So anyway, so what I've done is I kind of went back from 2015, because that's about the start of when we really got to get this going, up to end of the year 2020 last year. And a couple things that we're seeing. Slip rental, which was one of the things we were trying to do, was to try to generate more people to come to the county, rent slips, get interested in the county, and kind of like a doorway. I got to talk about that number for a second. I'm actually up 19%, which, because of last year, that number's probably low. And the reason being is I'm getting ready to do a big dock expansion project where I'm tearing down the boathouse and the T-dock, and we're replacing it with all floating structure. So leading up to that, I kind of put a time out on letting a whole lot of new boats come in, because then I'd have to throw them out when I ripped everything down. So COVID hit, that kind of messed things up a little bit. So now that's back on track to get done again. So once we get that up and running, then that number is even going to come up even higher. The biggest one that we hit, which was the biggest reason why we were trying to do this, was to try to promote winter storage, keep people from going away and going to other areas and not getting their work done in this county at our marinas. So our land storage has actually gone up 31%, which is a major increase. So because of that, labor sales have increased 16%. The labor sales is the one that really generates the most bang for your buck, I guess you could say, as far as employment. We've been able to increase 4 employees since that time. I actually have active ads out there right now. I could use another 1 or 2 techs. They're just hard to find. So the labor sales generates a lot of part sales. The parts are taxed, that kind of stuff. I need more people to do that. While slip rentals are great, don't get me wrong, once a marina's filled, it takes a certain amount of people to run a marina, the slip side of it. But the labor side's different. That takes a lot of manpower. So I've been very happy to be able to increase 4 people, and we are still looking for more. So we just having a hard time finding them, and COVID's made that even harder. I think people just wanting to get out and do things and make a lot of change right now. I think people are kind of held back a little bit. So hopefully once this starts freeing up, I'll start getting some people coming in and applying, and we can hire some more people. But that's really it, guys. I mean, I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what we're seeing, you know, the increases that we're seeing in the areas that we're seeing it in, and which was the kind of reason we were hoping to do this in the first place. So that's all I had, something quick and easy. I just wanted to kind of update you what was happening.
Okay. Do you have any questions? Any questions?
Yeah.
Is that across all the marinas?
Well,
I watch yours, because I kind of see
Yeah,
it a little bit.
yeah, there's 2 other gentlemen here that are gonna talk on, what they're seeing, but it's pretty much across the board. We're also trying to find a piece of property off-site because our actually service business and winter storage has gotten so big that we're about ready to explode. So I'm trying to find an off-site location to build another whole shop to concentrate on boats, 32 foot and under, transport them up there, bigger storage, bigger shop, and then keep all the big boats down at the marina where we can just haul them up and set them down. So we've gotten to that point where we're actually having to expand into a whole secondary location. So I just got to find the property, that's all. So we're working on that right now.
You sold a lot of boats last year, didn't you?
Yeah, we were actually down, but that's because of supply. Supply's been terrible. I mean, I have 1 new boat in stock, and I'm not going to get any more until August or September.
Wow.
It's just, I'm going to have the whole summer with no new boats to sell.
That's unfortunate, but
It's
that's a
not
lot,
good.
that's a lot of sales tax that gets generated from
Yeah.
selling boats, and so
Yeah, it does.
that's a big asset
what-
to the county.
What saved us is fortunately in the last quarter of last year, maybe even back as far as August, a lot of people started pre-ordering for the spring. So we've actually sold almost a year's worth of boats that are just now coming in for delivery by, Memorial Day, July 4th. But as far as, boats on the floor for people who just want to walk in, and it's not just me, it's just an industry problem. Not only is demand up, but the supply chain has just gone, there's so many little companies that COVID shut down for so long that they're having a hard time catching back up.
Well, there are a lot of boats that are full of electronics today, and just like the cars, they're having trouble with the computer chips and stuff, so
Yep.
it's basically shut down computer,
Yep.
or car manufacturing because we
They
can't get
can't get
computer
any,
chips.
this little teeny part shuts the whole thing down, and
Yep.
you just gotta wait, so it's another challenge. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else from the? Yes, sir. 5 minutes. How you doing?
Ken Knoll, District 1, Yankee Point Marina. And I'll hand this out in a minute, but I'm going to read through from it first. What I did was I took, kind of like what Clay did, I took our boatyard service operation versus our marina, which is a storage operation, used 2015 as our basis point, and then gave you year by year, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and then an average. And we're seeing in the boatyard, and I am 4 employees down where I would like to be. You can't find anybody for love nor money. I'll pay $15 minimum for an unskilled labor person to start. Can't find one. It's unbelievable. But in the boatyard, I'm at 124% on average year to year compared back to 2015. And in the marina storage, I'm at about 112. The boatyard would be much higher if I had more people, just as Clay said. The total income, this is sales only now. I didn't get into anything fancier. You got to have some kind of a metric to use, and I think this is as good as any. Total income is about 20% higher per year since 2015. You can see that 2016 didn't increase much. We said it's going to take a year to build it up, to get the word out, and sure enough, the numbers show it exactly. 2017, for instance, the boatyard was up 150%. And I believe that's 100% due to the no boat tax. So I'll hand this to Don, you can hand it to everybody else. It's absolutely been a windfall. I think it's coming to the county as well, because remember, it's not only going to the yard, it's also going to all the hotels and restaurants, except for COVID, which has screwed everything up. But hotels, the people like Kilmarnock Lettering, who does boat lettering for us, people like marine fabricators that do the awnings and that sort of stuff, T-tops. It's a huge increase to the county that's going every year better and better. Since 2015, we put that no boat tax in. So I like it. Hopefully, you guys take a look at that and then continue to support us, because it's supporting the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Take this off so you can hear me better. Bruce Sanders, Rappahannock Yachts, District 5. I didn't work up any numbers, but it's interesting. I do think that having Lancaster County as a no boat tax zone is only gaining momentum, and I can see it throughout that time period that we're talking about. I've reported before that we increased our labor force by about 30%, and we've been able to hold that. But I like to kind of compare where we've come just in the last year since we were sitting here discussing with the original boat tax committee to where we are right now. It's interesting because in your day-to-day operations, the boat tax issue really doesn't come up as something that you discuss. Before the boat tax, we always had to work the customers individually to let them know what they were going to have to face if they brought their boats here. Now that's really not an issue, so it doesn't come up. So it's interesting that people are coming in. There's nothing negative out there to stop them from coming in, other than whether they want to go to one business or the other. So I think that's a very interesting thing. I spend absolutely no time now trying to convince people to come to my yard because of the boat tax, or giving them a special incentive to come because of the boat tax. But my main emphasis is the workers, the employees, and jobs. One thing that I didn't get a chance to mention last year we were here is that our business used to be, and for years, I mean, I've been in it for years, it was really a seasonal business. And that is your employees that you wanted to keep, that you couldn't afford to let go over the wintertime. You would either make work or they would leave for a while and go on unemployment. Now what's happening with our restoration work, our business is a 12-month business. In fact, it's hard to get the work out of the door on time with the staff that we have. So that's a huge difference. Everybody's on full employment. Nobody's being laid off. Nobody's going for unemployment compensation. So that's a big thing. So if you were just to take a look at, I just say I'm going to take a little slice of my business, and I'm going to look at what happened in my business last week as a result of the boat tax. And these are things that happened, just came through the door, and the reasons, unsolicited on my part. One of the things that in the list of subcontractors and people that work on the outside from us, I had a list of about, 15 or 20 different businesses that interact with us on a yearly basis. Just this past week, we've had Sandy Matthews from Creative Designs, Randy Mowbray from the Metal Fabricators, Jerry Littell with Sales, he lives in Irvington, and Terry Stillman does canvas work. We've had those 4 subs just in our boat yard this past week, in addition to all of our full-time employees. I don't know if you remember the guy who came down and spoke at that meeting. His name was Rick Adams. He's the guy that passed around the work gloves. He's quite a character. His boat has been at our yard under full-time construction since the last meeting. That particular boat, I would say, on average, has got one man on it every day of the week, sometimes more. His boat is almost finished, but he keeps adding to the project every time he comes down. So, and he said, you know, that was one of the main reasons that he brought it here. He's from New York. He bought the boat here. He decided to leave it here because of the tax. Another interesting one from last year, last spring. There was a guy who called me, and he had a 54-foot motor yacht in Deltaville, and said he couldn't find anybody to work on it over there, and asked if we'd come pick it up. So we did, and we brought it over. It had been neglected for quite some time. That boat alone, I had one man working on that one boat for 6 months. We never talked about the boat tax at all, and I never even thought it was an issue with him. But the other day, we got a letter from him asking if we would verify that the boat had been here since last spring so that he could avoid paying the tax in Deltaville and Middlesex County because they were after him to pay it. Okay, excuse me. Let's see, one other one quickly today. We had a closing on a used 40-foot trawler, a couple from Illinois, and they came in and they registered the boat in Virginia because of the $1,200 or $2,000 maximum, and the boat tax was an issue for them renting a slip, and they were going to rent a slip here. So anyway, I just wanted to remind the board that all is well. The momentum is good. The boat business across all lines is strong, and one of the main factors for that is the boat tax. Thank you. Anybody got any questions?
So you would be opposed to talking about it again?
Well, I would think so. I'd be happy to talk, but I think you know my position.
I don't think we could out-talk him.
Well, I've only got 5 minutes. I mean.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else?
Hello, Steve Bryce with Greenville Marina, District 1. I've got the smallest marina here. You can fit mine in any of their parking lots. I started in 2016, so my point of reference is a little different from theirs, but we've seen growth every year. This last year during the pandemic, the growth has been tremendous, 30% growth in everything we do, whether it's a little bit of labor, but all our slips. One thing I'll give you some observations, and that's the best I can do, is when I started in 2016, we have a lot of people stopping by, looking at the slips, looking at houses in the area, asking what's the area's like, what's going on. And I would always lead with, well, there's no boat tax, or there's no boat tax in Lancaster County. And they were always surprised. That's not happening now. Now people are aware. I guess the realtors are telling them. I don't know who's telling them, but they know. And it's part of the reason for coming. Some people tell me that, some people don't. I don't always hear it, but I find out later. So it's been helpful to us, and I think you're going to see it when the reassessments come out next time. I think that all the properties on Rocky Neck where we are, they're gone. Houses have just flown off the lot with the bidding wars, anything on the water. And they all have boats, and they all have interest in their boats and where they're going to keep them and what service. And so that's what I'm hearing. So I imagine that when the next time you do reassessments, you'll see the value. And I would expect, the way I would measure it would be to compare it to Middlesex or Northumberland, places that don't have the boat tax when they do their reassessments. I think you're going to see a bigger increase. That's just my opinion. The fact that you had no boat tax in 2015, it's good, but right before the pandemic, to me, it's genius. People coming down here looking for every advantage they can get. And I thank you for having the foresight to do away with the boat tax right before the pandemic. I don't know how you knew, but it was a great, great plan. That's all I have to say. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else from the public? Is there anyone else out there that wants to speak remotely? Okay, if not, then we can, public input session is closed. We will go on to the Virginia Department of Transportation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
David Beal, Virginia Department of Transportation. Mike Bryan is with me tonight. Hopefully you've had a minute to look over my report included in your packet.
Can you hear him? Speak, yeah.
Hopefully you've had a minute to...
I need you to sound off. That's what we used to say in the Corps. You need to sound off.
David Beal, Virginia Department of Transportation. I have my report. Hopefully you've had a minute to look it over. We are working hard next couple of months to do as much maintenance as we can through the end of this budget year, and certainly we'll continue that on after July 1. Our focus is on ditches and pipe cleaning. You can see we've cleaned ditches and pipes on several routes there, on Clark Point Road, Fleets Bay, and River Road. We've cleaned up a lot of debris, and I say we like I have a mouse in my pocket. Mike and his crew have cleaned up a lot of debris from the ice storms in February, really all over the county, with the main focus on primary routes. Now they're working on pothole patches, and they repaired a slope on Route 3 near Avis Trail and continue to work on work orders countywide. We'll continue to focus on ditches over the coming months and drainage. We have a couple pipes to replace that we've been waiting for the weather to warm up so we can get a good patch on the road, on Maradica Road and on Old Salem. And we have a slope to repair at Crawford's Corner, and we'll continue to work on work orders throughout the county and continue routine maintenance. We are planning to pull the Mary Point Ferry out of the water and send it to a vendor to be repainted. That's on about a 5-year cycle. Last time we did it was 2016. And there's never a good time to pull the ferry, but we have to keep that in ship shape. And and we can't do it over the winter months when the ridership is the lowest because the painting contract, am I done?
Forget that, that wasn't for you. I forgot to cut the other one off.
The painting specifications are temperature dependent, and our boats aren't big enough to attract the big vendors in Hampton Roads that have indoor facilities, so our boats end up getting painted outside, so we can't paint them in the winter. So we look at the spring and the fall as our windows to paint them so that we're not interrupting the peak July, August ridership when the numbers are the highest. So we'll look to pull that mid to late April and would have it back mid to late June. A pavement schedule is underway.
Let me make a comment on that one. Pulling in April, back mid to, could you schedule that to the fall? Because we have a lot of tourists and stuff that start using that ferry during that time period when it's going to be pulled.
We may be able to.
We had some marina people here you could have talked to.
It was out for bid. It was out for bid.
May I, it was out for bid with the people who just spoke with us? Can this be done locally, or you have to go through a process and have a vendor that's approved by the state?
Yeah, everybody has to be registered on EVA, but it's open to anybody that wants to bid. I mean, they have to register and go through the public process, but it's not a.
Has the contractor already been selected then, it sounds like?
We've issued a notice to award. We have not issued a notice to proceed. So we're doing some paperwork back and forth, submittals on materials and things like that.
Yeah.
Mr. Penland, to your question.
Yes.
Ridership in October and November is around 1,200 vehicles. And I'm pulling 2019 numbers, because 2020 was off.
Right.
May and June is 1,500 to 1,700 vehicles. So it's not fall is the first best time to do it. Spring would be second best based on ridership. But when we're dealing with the weather, what we found with the Sunny Bank, the painting is done at the end of the contract term. So when we do it in the fall, our days are getting shorter, our nights are getting colder, and we push the end of the schedule. We're pushing up against the specifications to get the boat painted within specification.
Okay. So
If we
what you
do
s-
it in the spring, the weather's improving towards the end of the contract period, and we're able to get a better product with the paint, with the boat. But
And the ridership is less in the spring than the fall.
the ridership is less in the fall.
In the fall, right. That's
Right, so the fall we have about 8 months to choose from, because we can't do it in the winter. October and November on a ridership basis would be the preferred time to do it. April, May, June is the second best time based on ridership. But the ridership doubles in July and August. And we would still plan to have that boat back in the water for July and August.
May I ask another question?
Yes.
This ferry replaced a previous ferry, did it not?
Mhm.
What happened to that ferry? Is it possible that while one's being painted, you have this in storage, you could put it back in use?
No, we don't have one in storage. I don't know what happened to the old one. I assume it was salvaged or.
They were sold and they were so outdated, it's a totally different setup. That had-
Well, I know it's the number of cables and all of that.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I noticed under completed here, you include Route 354 River Road. That's not completed,
No,
as far as ditches and pipe cleaning.
we're still working on that. We do have a second pipe truck, and so every 3 weeks now, we're having a pipe truck, and we're continuing to work on it.
I just want to make sure that you don't consider it completed,
No,
even
no,
though it
sir.
says it here. Because I don't think Mr. Bott would agree with me where he comes from. And I can tell you, yesterday, I was surprised. I thought after that extended period of dry time, that, more would perk into the ground. If anything, it was worse than it was before with those sudden downbursts, those bursts that we had. And I can tell you, 354 will be impassable if that happens again. The sections of it will be.
No, I'm quite aware of it, and like I said, we've got a second pipe truck now, so we're on a 3-week cycle. My problem is putting out fires. In that 3 weeks' time, we get, 25 or 30 work orders, and what I would like to do is get in a point where we could schedule it and work our area and get it knocked out. But, I'm trying to do both, but it is not complete.
Thank you.
And I think, Mr. Larson, as far as my report, when I put a route on there, I don't intend to convey that the entire route is done, but we just prioritized one section of work and completed that on that route. But, if the route's 4 or 5 miles long, we're probably never gonna mobilize to do that much ditching all at one time. So I really just intended to convey that we have been at that location and completed the work that we had scheduled at that location. But if there are additional, we may be back in that same location the next month to do additional work.
Thank you.
Mr. Payne, I'll just finish my thought. I will talk to the vendor and see if there's an arrangement we could work out to do it in the fall. We've kind of started down this path, and I don't know what I'm obligated to at this point, but I'll find out. But I understand your concern.
All right, thanks.
On the payment schedule, we got bids back on the plant mix yesterday. I have not seen those yet, but I assume it's going to be awarded shortly. The Cape Seal routes have started. You may have seen some line eradication starting. And on the Cape Seal, just remind everybody, that's a 2-step process. They'll come in and put put down the typical surface treatment, and then that sets up for a couple weeks. They'll demobilize and go do another route. And then after that surface treatment sets up, they come back with the final asphalt emulsion and put that down and then do the striping. So sometimes people think that, you know, we've left this road that used to, you know, be plant mix asphalt, hot mix asphalt, and we've made it into surface treatment, but we're coming back to put a smoother surface on top of it after that surface treatment sets up. On the second page, construction, I expect work to start on Devil's Bottom Road with the curve warning sign and striping upgrade project the second week of April. The secondary 6-year plan will be back. I've sent some information to Don, and he's helped me with the advertisement. We'll be advertising in May for a public hearing on the 27th for the secondary 6-year plan. And just so you all can be thinking about it, we'll need to get the county's priority on which unpaved routes you want to do next. We have about a little less than a couple $100,000 to allocate. So that equates to about half a mile's worth of road. Most of the roads that are on the unpaved list are between 1/10 and 3/10 of a mile. So you might be able to add a couple roads on the secondary 6-year plan, and those wouldn't be built until the outer years of the 6-year plan when all that $200,000 is available. But if you selected a road that was 1/10 of a mile long, you might be able to do it in the next couple of years. The only other thing I had was a note. We had a public hearing a couple months ago for James Wharf Road. The applicant submitted a plan, kind of an exhibit, showing what their intentions were. We've reviewed that and sent comments back, I think, yesterday to Don. Once we get that site under permit and those comments are addressed, VDOT wouldn't have any objection to that abandonment. I don't have the date in front of me, but I think we have 2 more months.
Yeah, we can go through May, through the May meeting.
So at the May 27th meeting, we would need a decision from the board, or else you'd have to have another public hearing.
And it's the abandonment, and they're gonna build the turnaround
Yes.
to VDOT specifications, correct?
That's right.
Thank you.
Did you all have anything else for me or Mike?
Okay.
Last month I asked you about litter pickup and the cost of that.
That was on my list and I skipped it. We're planning to do litter, starts in April. Contract will be picking up litter on all the primary routes. So everything less than 600.
What about all the secondary routes?
We don't plan to do that until we start mowing.
So mowing. So currently you do it like all the roads like twice a year? How does this work? The problem is that it goes all winter long with no pickup, and it's really messy, and so we need to have a pickup in the wintertime. And if somebody's got to pay for it, then we just got to we're gonna have to pay for it and make it happen, because it's trashy, and I'm trying to find every way we can to try to solve this problem, but right now we just need to clean it up. And that's gonna require at least another cleanup in the wintertime.
Okay. I think I provided litter pickup rates to you.
Yeah, you sent me, yeah, you did.
It's in the secondary routes. I don't have this information in front of me. It's about $5,000 for primary and about $5,000 for secondary for a one-time pickup.
So about $10,000
For the
worth of litter
entire
pickup
county.
every time you do it?
Right.
Okay. So, could it be that we request and work a way to pay for that outside of your budget, or?
Yes, I think that is a possibility, and that's what Don and I had talked about before. I don't know if somebody had made a request to him, but, okay, yeah, we had talked about it before, and we're certainly willing to work with you on that, but, we have so many priorities, and litter's, certainly a concern, and we're gonna plan to take care of it before we mow. That's kind of our practice, but I can't pick it up every time somebody throws something out there. But I understand your concern. I'm certainly willing to work with you on it.
And it's a really critical problem around here, because it washes into the waterway and it becomes a problem for the water. And so I'm trying to address it from the Rappahannock River Basin Commission as well, and through the General Assembly. But here locally, we've tried enforcement I don't see any other means to really take care of it right now other than just to clean it up, and whatever that cost is to incur that cost.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't plug our Adopt a Highway program. We're happy to provide bags and signs and, you know, any coordination or meet with community organizations to.
And I think there is a lot of that goes on, but they don't pick up like along the main roads and stuff like that. So it's certainly along the Route 3 corridor where people drive, that needs to stay clean as possible. And if we have to pick it up an extra couple times a year, then we need to do that. At least that's my opinion.
Well, unfortunately, the day after you pick it up, it looks just like it did that day.
I think they're punishing me. They're throwing tires out, and when the tires get picked up, the last month ago, had 3 full trash bags, so they just didn't fall off a truck. Somebody stopped, threw them out there. So, they want me to know it, so.
Yeah, it's frustrating for everybody. I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, and it's a problem all over.
It's a problem everywhere, because everywhere I drive, it's a mess, and it's really a statewide problem, but, you know, the state doesn't.
Nationwide.
The state doesn't solve problems, they give unfunded mandates for us to solve, so we might as well try to solve this ourselves.
Right.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Anything else? No? All right, I think that's all the questions for you.
Have anything for me?
No? Just a thank you for what, for
We'll
the work
continue
you've
to
done.
work.
Thank you. All right. Broadband Authority update?
We can skip that thing, right?
Well.
She's here.
He should.
I can say something, but I can't. I'm here again. Okay. Of course, the biggest thing that's happened, going to lose that job. The biggest thing that's happened recently, of course, is the fact that we won the VDOT grant. We and the other 3 counties for $4.2 million. And the ball's in the court now of DHCD, because they're going to have to come up with contracts and send them out to everybody. We negotiate and everything, and that's going to be a few weeks. But anyway, as soon as that's done and we finalized everything, we can start to work. That'll be ABB, which has started a little bit of the work. We're still waiting to hear about Russ. No idea. We thought we'd hear last week. We didn't. So we're in a holding. We've identified a candidate for the position of executive director, as we spoke earlier. He's highly qualified and is excited about coming here. And we hope to have him at our next meeting. He can't come down, he has obligations, but he will be Zooming with us at our next meeting, where we have a list of things to start talking to him about, et cetera, et cetera. So he's getting actively engaged, and we're sending him things so he can get some background. So he'll be fully engaged in another few weeks. We hopefully, by the end of April, he will be here. All righty, next. We've already started preparing material to the DuPont, the Jesse Ball DuPont Foundation, because they'd asked us, would we be interested in talking to them about some sort of a grant for the Middle Peninsula and Northern Neck, and we said we'd like to talk about Lancaster. We had a great conversation, and now I prepared a narrative, and Gary Silverman has got some maps, and we're going to expand that to prepare a whole presentation for Mr. Walker to say, here are a couple of options, and now what would you like to do, and how much money are you going to give us? So that's in motion. We're also looking for additional funding opportunities. Sharif sent out, the FCC has put out his emergency fund for $7.27 billion, and that could benefit the schools and the libraries. And I've already forwarded that whole package to Alice Cooper for the library, and for them to consider any comments, anything they thought that they could get from this. And I believe Kevin has sent it to Dan Russell. So see what the schools would like to submit, and hopefully get something from this too. And
You missed the paragraph above that.
which one did I miss?
Another
Oh,
Gary-
Craig,
Gary
yes, another
Silverman.
funding opportunity. This is with the solar companies. Thank you. You
You're
miss
welcome.
numbers, but
Well,
you
I'm
don't miss
looking at Charlie.
paragraphs.
He's interested in the solar facilities. So,
The solar companies may enter into siting agreements with the county. And Gary's been talking to Craig, I hope I pronounced it right, Adair, the Senior Development Manager with Open Roads Renewable. who stated the company may proffer money to pay for broadband up in Nutsville, but, that's ongoing, so we'll see what we can get and where we can get it. And we said that we would help any potential projects that the county may be interested in this, and we'll help wherever we can as far as locations. Okay? All right, we've updated, the authorities updated BTS performance under its contract with the county for the CARES Act. And so we're staying in contact with BTS. The project is behind schedule, not their fault, there's some other issues involved. But the big thing is, as they move along, we're going to encourage people to read their website to find out how they can sign up for the boxes, the first 300, and then what would happen after that. We just reviewed his and made comments on his media release. So there will be something going out shortly. As soon as they get the comments we made, make any changes, and hopefully that will be out soon. Let's see. We've adopted amended and restated bylaws to clarify our voting provisions. And we're going to be talking to the BOS about our budget. And that's it.
Okay.
Questions?
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Palin. What's my first name?
Cassie.
I'm not going to let you forget.
All right. That's a little personal joke. When I first met her, I didn't know who she was, and I was going to introduce her, and I thought it was a male, and I called her by a male's name. So she never let me live it down.
What name did you call me?
I don't remember it. Oscar.
A sheet of paper with my name.
Okay, we're getting ready to go to public hearing now, and we have, the first case is Connie. Mr. Brown?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is an application for special exception by Connie Frisby. This is a public hearing for the consideration of a special exception for the placement of a single-wide trailer on a 1-acre parcel located off Devil's Bottom Road in District 2. This parcel is zoned R1, and therefore single-wide trailers, as you see in my memo where I cite the code, are less than 24 feet wide are not permitted in the R1 district without a special exception. This item's been advertised, adjacent property owners have been notified, and no concerns have been raised to county staff prior to today. I spoke with the property owners yesterday on the phone. They had received a letter from me telling them when this meeting would be and how to get here and how to participate. They expressed to me that they were reluctant to attend in person, and I'm not sure whether they're on the technology side of it or not. You can ask Glenn here in a minute, but that's all I had, gentlemen. If you have any questions from me on the process or any other items.
Before I open this up for public hearing, Mr. Lee, you have any comments or anything concerning this?
On this one?
Yeah,
Not on.
not on this one. All right. That's right, this is Devil Bottom's room. All right.
It is in your district, sir.
I'm the one with comments, right?
Yes, sir. It's close, and I'm preparing for rezoning right now, and what's funny is this particular parcel will come to you in a couple months. It butts up to another parcel, and it cuts right between Jack's district and yours, but it's like 100 feet. We even scaled it off, so
Okay.
yeah, I appreciate that.
All right. I'm opening up the meeting to the public here for this. Anybody want to speak? All right, public hearing is closed. All right, I recommend that we approve this request. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, yay. All right, ayes have it. All right. Public hearing number 2. Mr. Barnes.
Mr. Chairman, I think Mr. Lee may have some information relevant to this public hearing.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with the applicant
John,
on this,
his mic's not on.
Your mic's not on?
It's on.
There you go.
Oh, thank you.
It's just way from me.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I spoke with the applicant, today on this particular application for zoning for home daycare, and we came to agreement that she should go ahead and put her application in for social services, and that we will wait until she got that back from social services. So tonight, I make a motion that we postpone this, and she's in agreement we'll postpone this public hearing till a further future date when she get the information back on her application from social services. And that's social services in Richmond, and there's been some confusion about that. Sometimes when we say social services, we think everything is handled out of Lancaster, but this is actually handled out of Richmond.
Okay.
So that's the motion, that we postpone this till a future date, till we receive that information.
All of you heard the motion?
And I understand that Mr. Barnes has spoken with the persons who have expressed some opposition to this, and they understood that this matter would be tabled.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we've talked to them in the last week or so and let them know how the process was progressing. They also received letters, and then this afternoon, once this motion was prevailing, we let them know that there was probably no need to participate. But I might, Glenn, you don't see anybody online that raised, okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they got the message. They didn't call me back, so I'm pretty sure they got it.
Okay, so you've heard the motion. All in favor of the motion, said aye.
Aye.
All right, motions are unanimous, carries unanimously. All right, the next one is number 3, Mr. Barnes.
Actually, this one's me.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the Electoral Board hung around tonight for a reason. They are requesting a change in the polling place for District 1, the Whitechapel District, from the Upper Lancaster Ruritan Building to the Upper Lancaster Volunteer Fire Department due to a change of ownership with the Ruritan Building. Section 22-2 of our existing local ordinance needs to be amended, as I've highlighted in your package, to reflect that change of polling place. I also point out that the description of District 1 contained in Section 22-2 is consistent with the last redistricting in 2011. I point that out because Section 22-3, which immediately follows 22-2, obviously, I found out really serves no purpose. This is more of a proofreading and clarification item that I'd like you to take care of. 22-3 seemingly tries to duplicate the purpose of 22-2, but it lists only District 1, and it describes District 1 as it existed with the 2001 redistricting. So since 22-3 does not describe all districts, has an outdated description, I've asked Jim Cornwell to take a look at it, and I believe he agrees with me that we can go ahead and strike that whole Section 22-3. So 22-2 will reflect the change in the polling place, has all the correct information for all the districts. These amendments, proposed amendments, have been advertised as required by law, and I've had no response from the public.
Hey, Don, is the Ruritan property, have they closed the sale?
I'm not sure of that. Do you know, Brian?
They haven't closed the sale yet. They're gonna sell the product sale, the swimming pool and the land, and then they're gonna donate the money to charity.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other comments before I open it up to the public? All right. Public hearing is now open on this process. Hearing no one from the public, I close the public hearing. All right. All in favor of this proposed amendment, along with the revision, say aye. Aye. All right. All opposed? No. All right. Okay. Sir, let me ask you a question. Yes, sir. You were saying that the proceeds from the sale, you was going to give that to the charity?
That's what the president told me, yes, sir.
Okay.
It's a nonprofit organization.
Right. I want to talk to you. Might want to talk to you later. I don't know how to get in contact with you, though.
I've got his email, and I think I got his phone number, too.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, okay, thank you then. All right,
Okay.
I'm gonna talk with you later.
All right, thank you.
All right. What's the next one? Update of Chapter 5. Mr. Barnes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This issue is a hearing to update Chapter 5 of the Comprehensive Plan, which is titled Access to State Waters. Every 5 years, the comprehensive plan must be updated. It can also be updated more frequently, as you are aware. The Planning Commission began working on this chapter on September 17, 2020, and discussed it 4 separate times and amended it. This chapter is of importance as access to state waters is a long-stated goal of our comprehensive plan in this county and of interest statewide. Other than some standard data updates that you'll see in this draft, you might also be interested in a few highlighted updates that I'm going to mention here that are new language items. On page 5-4, we added a little slight mention of marina and commercial boat facilities are mentioned. You heard from some marina and commercial boat facilities tonight. Obviously, that's an important part of our economy that wasn't absent in previous comprehensive plans, but we felt it needed to be a little more stronger language, if you will. On page 5-8, there's a first mention of the Fred Adjution boat ramp. Congratulations to this board and to Don Gill for getting that done. That was not mentioned, that boat ramp was not a reality in the last update of the comp plan, so we have added that in there, a mention of that. Page 5-15 are some forward-looking statements that were added to mention possible park locations, work and use of the Good Luck Road site if that ever comes to fruition in the future. Page 5-20 mentions development of a public fishing pier site off or near the main stem of the Rappahannock River with desires to be located near good fishing and deep water. And the thought is with a fishing pier is that you're able to serve folks who maybe don't have a boat or don't, maybe the water's rough that day and they don't want to go out on the boat, or they want to teach a young child to fish. A fishing pier has a lot of advantages for development as a public access site, and we thought that having language in there might help strengthen the county's case if and when a good site like that is found by the county for purchase or possession and development. If I may answer any of your other questions that you guys may have on the development of this revision or anything else you may be concerned about. Thank you.
I just have one quick question regarding when a public pier is built regarding fishing licenses, does everyone that fishes there require their own individual license, or is it because it's a government property that everyone's like able to fish there? How does that work?
One of the things that I understand right now is that you do have to have a fishing license to fish, even if it's a county or state-owned pier. That's after the meeting, I'll tell you my personal opinions on that, but nonetheless, it is state law. So, and it's not for just an individual fishing license. It's not too big of a deal. I got one last year, in addition to the boat license, but I don't remember how much it is, $15, $20, something like that. It's not too bad.
It was a question I had. I wasn't sure of that.
But it is something you have to do, and and even younger folks have to do that as well.
Wherever you fish at,
Yeah.
unless you're over 65.
The Bell House.
You're on your own land.
Yeah, just like Bell House State Park, you have to have a license to fish there. Yeah. Okay, I'll open up the public hearing. Any comments? Public hearing is now closed. All right.
I'd move that we approve this amendment to the Chapter 5 of the Comprehensive Plan.
You've heard the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay.
I'd move for approval of the consensus docket.
Okay, you've heard the motion. All in favor of approval of the consensus docket, say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous vote. All right, next one, salaries and invoices.
Let me get that up.
Okay.
It may take a second here. This internet's
Right.
running really slow. Huh, it actually popped up quickly this time. Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve invoices in the amount of $743,124.29. Total payroll, $306,643.34, for a grand total of $1,049,767.63. Loan payments of $123,189.80. None in capital improvements, and CARES of $72,445.33.
Okay, you've heard the motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. All right. Excellent. Consideration of joining or proposed Northern Neck Regional Cigarette Tax Board. I believe that's Mr. Gill.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've briefed you before on discussions that we've had with the PDC about the possibility of creating a Northern Neck Region Cigarette Tax Board. Counties will have the ability to levy a cigarette tax beginning July 1 of this year. King George County actually initiated these discussions with the PDC, and we had 2 or 3 meetings. I can't remember now exactly how many, but you know, and I told you that King George County had offered to foot the bill for the first year of the employee that would be required at the PDC to administer this program. Well, since our last meeting with that group, the county administrator for King George has moved on, and we've been informed that King George has withdrawn that offer, and they have also decided to pursue administering a cigarette tax on their own. So they're not looking to be a member of this regional board. The towns of Kilmarnock, Whitestone, and Colonial Beach and Warsaw already have a cigarette tax in place, and they have not indicated a desire to join this regional effort as well. Richmond County has also declined because they just don't have the numbers of facilities outside of the towns that sell cigarettes, so they don't believe that the amount of revenue would be significant enough for them to be a part of this effort. So it leaves Westmoreland, Northumberland, Lancaster, and the town of Montrose as possible participants in this regional effort. I've got Jerry Davis has just zoomed in to help answer any questions and further explain this for you. I've also included in your package a tabulation of current cigarette tax revenues from the towns which currently have the tax and estimated tax revenues for the 4 possible participants in this Northern Neck regional effort. The estimates are based on a formula used by the state in which an average number of packs per resident was computed for the towns which currently have the tax, multiplied by a jurisdiction's current population, and then multiplied by the tax rate. These estimated revenues were based on a tax rate of 40 cents per pack, which is the maximum allowed by code. And you can see that the maximum estimated revenue that Lancaster could expect from this tax would be around $65,000. So you have an agreement attached to, in your packet, which describes how the Northern Neck Region Cigarette Tax Board would operate. This is similar to an existing arrangement that Lancaster County is in with the PDC to handle our emergency medical billing services. With that, I would try to answer any questions, and maybe Jerry can add on anything at this point. Jerry, do you have anything?
Yeah, let me just, the existing cigarette tax that the towns are generating, it shows Colonial Beach generating 30,000. We've since learned that they're actually generating a little over 80,000 a year. The previous town manager had indicated that they were generating 30, but their audit statement shows that they're generating over 80,000 a year in cigarette tax. And in the estimate from Montrose, that estimate was based on population, but we think that the town of Montrose, based on the number of retailers in the town, that they'll probably generate in that $50,000 to $100,000 a year as well. So just wanted to point that out. But Don covered it pretty well. King George County sort of initiated the discussion. The previous county administrator actually participated on a working group that was established after the General Assembly adopted the legislation authorizing counties to institute cigarette taxes effective July 1. And there were a number of stakeholders that were worked on that working group, including the Department of Taxation. And I know that the Department of Taxation, right out of the bat, said that if counties instituted a county cigarette tax, that it could not be done through the Department of Taxation, that the counties would have to implement it themselves. And they further encourage counties to work in a regional manner to institute the tax instead of each county doing it. So that was just sort of recommendations that came down from the Department of Taxation and through this working group. And I think Neiman Young, because of that participation, he came away with the idea that a regional approach was where you're sharing the administrative cost of instituting the tax would be the way to go. I think the other thing I'll just point out that because of the number of retailers in King George County, particularly on Route 301, there's a number of retailers that sell cigarette tax. There's a lot of people that travel down 301 from points north, whether it be Maryland, New York. They come into Virginia to buy their cigarettes because the taxes up north are much higher than Virginia, even if the county were to institute a tax. So they were expecting sizable revenues from the tax. And we just estimated that if all 5 localities came together as originally planned, that King George would probably be generating 80% of the total tax revenue. And as Don indicated, King George sort of offered, they were really pushing the regional approach and offered to underwrite the arrangement for the first year. But after Neiman moved on, he's no longer there. The county board and a working committee decided that because of the amount of revenues generated in King George, that they would just do it on their own. And I know all along they expressed they wanted a lot of emphasis placed on the auditing and compliance, where somebody was actively going out on a regular basis, checking the retailers to make sure the retailers were selling legally stamped cigarettes. So that was where they were coming from. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. But other than that, I think Don covered it pretty well.
Gentlemen, do you have any questions?
I just have one quick question. Would this person be a new employee of the Northern Neck District Planning Commission?
Jason, I think if all 4 localities, and based on the estimated revenues, it wouldn't really be a lot of money. And I don't think the effort, I mean, it's obviously not going to be as much of an effort when King George was part of the equation. So we definitely wouldn't need a full-time person, and we would try to incorporate most of that because it's a matter of purchasing the stamps, and then the wholesaler purchase the stamps from either the locality or if it's a regional board, from the regional board. And that's when the money changes hands, is when the wholesaler is purchasing the stamps, and then the wholesaler in turn gets those cigarettes stamped and sells them to the retailer so that the retailers have stamped cigarettes. There already is a statewide tax. So all cigarettes in Virginia are taxed by the state and have a state stamp on it. But now the General Assembly has authorized all localities in Virginia to institute a local tax, whereas before only towns and cities had that authority. So, but to answer your question, I think the admin fiscal part of this is very minimal, and we could do it, with some minimal part-time staff assistance.
Okay. Any further questions or comments from the board?
Is this the type of thing that we could enter into, and if it did not seem to be worth it, we could get back out of? Or would we be committing ourselves to doing this for a considerable period of time?
No, the agreement, I think, addresses an opt-out. I'd have to look real quick to see what kind of notice you have to give.
I think
but
it's a 60-day out.
It's not a permanent thing.
Not a
You
cost.
could opt out if it wasn't
You may
working
have
for
to
you.
pay some of the capital cost if they acquired any pictures of assets. It's paragraph,
So I remember reading something
Yeah,
about it
me
here.
too.
paragraph,
Termination. 9,
Nine,
termination.
termination.
Yeah, 60 days notice is what the agreement says.
terminating jurisdiction shall receive within 30 days of date of termination its share of total revenues, less proportional expenses, operating funds, and depreciated value of physical property used by the board.
I think what if we have a history of having revenue that goes for a period of time, and we should opt out, we owe a part of that revenue. Is that correct?
There's a section in here, doesn't section 9 cover termination if we want to bail out? It's in there.
You have two questions. One, do you want to impose a cigarette tax? And then if you do, we'll have to adopt an ordinance imposing cigarette tax. The second question is, do you want to do it yourself or do it through this regional organization? We're not at this point to enter into the agreement at this time. We're only at the point of determining whether you want a cigarette tax and authorize adoption of ordinance. And second, whether you're interested in pursuing the regional cooperative agreement. You can change your mind on the second issue at any time after the adoption of the ordinance.
All right, gentlemen, what you like to do? What are you thinking? We should participate or check it out or have Don to start things?
I think we're better to participate in the group on this than
I
try to
agree
do
with-
it
agree with the
individually.
group.
I agree with you. I think if we're gonna do it, we'd be better doing it on a regional basis like this.
Right,
But may I ask one other question?
yes.
What if we don't do this right now, but we see how it's going for those who do participate and make a decision then?
I don't know what,
What purpose would that serve, really?
I don't see a reason why we shouldn't go ahead and start, because we can back out.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
I think one of the questions is there enough participants and enough revenue for the
Make it worth our while.
to make it worth the,
But it's not gonna cost us anything.
no, I say, but if you don't participate, or if you decide not to adopt the tax, and Westmoreland doesn't, it may not be worth it to the commission to go forward.
Yeah, they don't have enough participation of members, I'm
Right.
saying, yeah.
I can tell you that Westmoreland and the town of Montrose are ready to go. And Northumberland has basically tabled it to discuss it further.
I mean, I'm prepared to move forward.
All right.
And if I could add just one more thing, I've recently, just within the week, heard from Richmond County, and they've indicated now that they would like to join in on the regional board, but they most likely wouldn't institute a tax effective July 1, but basically they wanted to be part of the regional effort and then evaluate when and if they would institute a tax later on. So that's where their thinking is right now.
All right, well, I move that we direct Mr. Gill to draft an appropriate ordinance and to schedule an appropriate public hearing. Did everybody understand that motion?
It appears fine to me.
Okay.
You know, it's unlike the thing we turned down on the site-ready business, you know, and all the downsides that Dr. Westbrook pointed out on that. I don't see them here. I see a fairly easy termination out. I would like to see, you know, move forward with this,
Okay.
quite frankly,
Well,
the way it's written up.
all right, he called, the question has been called. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carried unanimously. All right. I'm gonna ask this question now, and you don't have to really comment on it, so if you don't want to. But we're talking about generating these taxes from the cigarettes. Can we, I know we can, but I'm gonna just throw it out. Don't really want any answers, comments, or whatever, but something to think about. If we do this, and the funds that are coming in on this, can we set those funds aside for broadband? For,
Well,
just think about it.
okay. You can, as a matter of policy, earmark funds, but that's not legally binding unless you do that as part of the financing.
Okay, all right, good, all right, thanks.
So you can say, we'd like to give the cigarette tax authority, and you can do that, but it's not legally binding on future boards.
Meaning the next board
Next
member.
board can
if
take
you
it
get
off.
one board
Get
member,
rid of
can
it.
Get rid of it and change it.
Okay.
Now, if you go out and borrow money, you're gonna
Then-
have to have revenue or have funds to support that borrowing. Then if you take those borrowed monies and give them to the authority, you're still gonna have the debt.
Right.
Because you borrowed money.
Okay, all right, so I just decided to just throw that out there, that's food for thought. Okay, the next one.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yes, thank you, sir. All right,
Hey, thank you all.
all right. Next is consideration of schedule a public hearing for a proposed conveyance of .323 acres of county-owned property. All right, Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, I got a letter and a phone call and actually a visit from David Alga, who owns the house out here in the woods behind the parking lot for the new courthouse. And his driveway, current driveway, actually goes through our parking lot. And the old driveway that he had actually went out to Courthouse Road and didn't go through the parking lot of the courthouse. He has requested that he would like to reopen that old driveway, which is now on county-owned property. And he's asking that the county convey .23 acres, it's 50 feet wide, 200 feet deep, right up against his property so that he can reopen that old driveway. And he's indicated to me that he would relinquish the easement that the county granted him in 2012 going through our parking lot to get to the existing driveway to his house. He has not mentioned a price in his letter. He's obviously stating that he's willing to purchase it, and he verbally committed to me that he would relinquish the easement that the county gave to him. So in order to convey an interest in county property, you have to hold a public hearing. But before I schedule a public hearing to convey county property, I want you all to tell me that that's what you want to do.
Mr. Gill, so we can have this motion tonight, and then there could be a negotiation later on price or on whatever gets exchanged for it,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is just to schedule a public hearing on the conveyance.
Yeah.
I move that we schedule a
Okay.
public hearing.
All right, okay, all right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You hear the motion?
I got it, all right. All those in favor, everybody heard the motion?
Aye.
All right, all those in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion carries unanimously, all right. I'm just throw this out. If he's gonna relinquish the easement, it's a small portion. I would just say swap for swap. That's my thinking on it. It's this District 2, so that's my thinking on that. All right, so I briefly talked with him on that, so, but I haven't talked with him about swap for swap. Okay. Mr. County Administrator. All right, consideration of assigned the fixed wireless broadband contract with Broadband Telecom Services. Mr. Gill?
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to give you a general overview, and then Mr. Cornwell can chime in. But you remember that last fall, Lancaster County was awarded just under $300,000 in a separate pot of CARES Act funding for a fixed wireless broadband project that includes installing an antenna array on this tower behind the sheriff's office. I can tell you that 2 days this week, there were 2 people dangling from that tower, installing the antennas up there. So we're getting very close in this project to where customers are going to actually be served with this service. And state code would not allow the county to be the provider of that service. So now's the time for the county to assign this contract to the Broadband Authority so that they can facilitate this happening. I put this map up, and Glenn's gonna fuss at me if I don't take this, but I put this map up, and it shows where the antenna location is, and all of these green dots that you'll see within the radius of the, let me turn it this way, maybe you all can see. All of these green dots in this radius are folks who have called BTS and inquired about this service. So this is something that people are interested in. And also the greenish hues indicate the level of service. Everywhere where you have a greenish hue, the service is supposed to be good in that area. So you can see that, you know, certainly within that 5-mile radius, it looks like the service that's going to be generated from that tower is going to be
Was it my
excellent.
understanding there's only 300 customers available at first?
It's 300 available under the CARES Act,
Is it
which
first come, first served?
first, it is first come, first serve, and it's for unserved residences.
So you can't have internet or don't have access to anything, right?
Right, and then now, the Broadband Authority will negotiate with BTS, this is a separate negotiation with them and BTS, for handling folks above 300, people who call in above 300.
Do we know if there's a limit on how many can go off of this tower?
They tell me that they can handle about 1,000.
1,000 customers?
Yeah. So,
Do we have a cost structure on what has all that been laid out, like what it's gonna cost?
he does have a plan, a cost structure above the CARES Act project.
How are people, you said people are calling, how are people finding out about this already?
There's been an article in the paper at least once or twice that I know of. We've got a page posted on every entry door in this building, and I believe the Broadband Authority has some information on their website about this. And BTS has it on their website.
Of course, this is a question of more for the broadband since we're assigned this contract to them, but once it goes live and it's ready, can they send a notice to everyone that's available within the area to say, hey, this service is now available, you can sign up for it?
Well, part of the contract includes marketing of this, and that's an issue that the Broadband Authority will address with BTS.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Jason got the same concerns I have, and I'll address these with Cass, and I think I might have talked to you some about it, but getting the information out to the people who it's intended for, you know, so, and that's always a problem. So I think we need to watch that closely.
I think that Don explained the situation. We've come from infrastructure creation, which this board can do, to operation, which the authority has to do. And if you look at the contract, in fact, in Task 2 and Task 3 actually calls for Broadband Authority involvement. However, since they're not a party to the contract, their enforcement ability is not there. So it's time to put this project on, now that it's going to get up and running, it's time to put this project to the authority to control and to operate and to work with BTS to provide the best service to the best people.
One further question before we move, like, we assign this to the authority, but the authority doesn't really have any executive director or people. Who's going to be managing this contract and who's going to be signing up customers and taking the money? And in the meantime, before the executive director and that stuff really gets up to speed, which probably is going to take another month or 2 or 3.
Right, but I'm not sure the system is, as you heard tonight, I think the system's running behind too, so it probably is not going to be up and running until June anyway.
Okay.
Well, no, I think it's going to be before then because the first test customer is scheduled to be online in 2 weeks. They've got a lot of testing to do next week with the signal. With the signal strength. Actually, the first test customer is going to be a former member of the Broadband Authority who is just under 3 miles out from the tower. He's going to be the first test customer. And next week, they've got a lot of testing of the signal. And then the following week, they've got 15 test customers that they're going to get up and running first to tweak the signal and to make sure of the service. and then they will, you know, go out to the folks who have requested the service and begin the installation of the home equipment. And you know, BTS is handling folks who are inquiring and, you know, asking to be signed up. So the Broadband Authority would be overseeing it, but
They'll be working with BTS mainly.
BTS is actually handling. They've actually come up with, they have an automated billing system, and we've been having a weekly meeting to keep updated on the progress of it, and we had a meeting today, and he showed us all of the billing software and equipment and how it generates, and it's all automated. People can pay with credit card online, and it's impressive.
My comments were based upon the Broadband Authority's report to the board tonight, which says the delays of expected completion date from June to July.
With that, I'd move that we appoint this contract to the Broadband Authority.
All right, all those heard the motion, are you in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous vote. All right, any additional comments on this? If not, then we are ready for board reports.
Mr. Chairman, I have a report.
Okay.
I'd like to reappoint Tara Booth to the Planning Commission.
Good, all right, all those heard the motion to reappoint Tara Booth to.
How long has she been on now, Jason?
I talked to her earlier today, and she said to think this will make 20 years if she serves this term out.
Yeah.
I think the only one that's got more on her is Bob Smart, and he's coming off here in another month.
Yeah.
So she'll get the record.
Yeah.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous vote. All right, any other board reports?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I just have a question. As we talked about this thing and how good it looks, you know, with the tower behind here, I'm wondering if we're getting any kind of feedback as to how many people are using our little hotspots out. Do you have any feel for that at all?
Yes, that's part of the weekly meeting that we've been having, a weekly update. Now, that will transition to the Broadband Authority, and the Broadband Authority meets twice a month, so BTS will be updating them now, and I plan to sit in on those meetings so I can be updated and convey it to you all. But they do have a spreadsheet which shows how much use each pole is getting. And the pole out here in the courthouse actually had over a gigabyte of use last week, which Gary says is good. Now,
That is good, that is good.
If Gary says it's good, it's good.
yeah, so.
What about the one down at Nutsville and the one down at the boat landing?
Both of them are less, but they still show usage. And the one in Kilmarnock behind the Northern Neck Burger also has good usage in the gigabyte range and not the megabyte range. So they are being used. The 5 of them have been installed. The other 3, the holes were dug today, and the concrete should be poured tomorrow for those, and they'll be going up very shortly. So I will tell you that Matt Smith told me that the pole out here has exceptionally good service, because he said that he stopped there to download to his Dropbox, whatever that means, and he said it happened just like that.
In the blink of an eye.
Yeah, so he asked me how could he get one of them down at the maternity center where they are, and I said, well, we'll look at that. But so he says it works very well.
Okay. Well, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to ask Ms. Nunnery to report what Mr. Gill just got through saying, you know, so that persons who are writing to your editor poo-pooing these things get the message. Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other ones? All right, County Administrator?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I have is at one of our budget sessions, I think on the 11th, when we presented, Mr. Bott brought up about briefing the board on the CARES Act balances, and I don't have a spreadsheet for you all tonight, but I can tell you that the balance remaining from last year's CARES Act money is $601,490. And as I told you on March the 11th, we are expecting $2,075,000 at some point in time out of the new stimulus package. And I have not received any other information other than that estimate. So I don't know if the rules are going to change, or if they're going to stay the same, or what. But that's the expected estimate from the American Relief Plan, I think they call it.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Administrator? Okay. If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. All in favor of adjourning, raise your hand. All right.
Mr. Payne.
Motion.